we on? Am I on? Good morning. It's a Planning Commission meeting, April 9th, 2026. We'll call the meeting to order, and if you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I just want to verify that notification was made appropriately for the two items that we have on the agenda. Okay, I see a shake of head that it is in the affirmative. We have nothing on the consent agenda, and we now have public input. You may come up and speak for 3 minutes on anything that is not on the agenda. Please identify yourself and have 3 minutes. Anybody in the chambers? Do we have anybody on Zoom? No one on Zoom. All right, we'll close that public input. So we have two projects to look at, and before we do that, we have a timed item at 9:05 for presentation of the County Public Works, the roads program. So do we want to wait till 9:05, or can we go ahead and start?
Since it's a timed item, we need to wait until 9:05.
All right. Take a 3-minute break here while get set up. Good morning. Oh. Are they supposed to? It seems to me that everybody should have the same amount of time.
Oh, okay. I'll let you do. It's all yours.
I would defer to legal counsel on that. I don't know what the issues are, but it seems to me that everyone should have these. It's just a preference. Whatever you want to do. I can invite you to come and sit.
Yeah, there, okay.
How you doing? You serving coffee for everybody?
Told you. Sure. Sounds good, actually.
All right, it's 9:05, and if you introduce yourself and enjoy the project.
All right. Lars Ewing, I'm the interim public works director. I'm joined in the audience by Jim Hale. He's the county road superintendent. I'm going to just begin this by setting the stage that this was a request from the Community Development Department. Community Development Director Turner requested a presentation, just a general presentation about roads. If I miss the mark with any of this, questions would be the best thing, and Mireya, please, please direct us if we're not, again, not informing you in the way that you have intended. The presentation that I essentially pulled off the shelf is a presentation that I gave to the Board of Supervisors a few months back. Which was a plan for the 5-year pavement preservation, but it includes, and this is really why I picked this presentation, it includes a general, kind of general information about the way we approach county road maintenance and county road improvements. So this, while the intent for that presentation to the Board of Supervisors really was the 5-year work plan, the intent of the presentation to the Planning Commission is going to be really the information up front, which is how much staff do we have, where do we receive funding, that sort of information. So I'll dive right into this. By the way, there's some formatting issues. Things are truncated off, so I apologize for that. But the content still comes through. So county maintained roads, the county maintained road system, what is it? First off, what is a county maintained road? A county maintained road, there are a variety of different road types in Lake County. That's what we're talking about here. You have city roads, if you're in the city of Lakeport or city of Clear Lake, you have state highways that are Caltrans. There are also public roads that are not county maintained. And so there's a variety of different kind of categories of roads. Presentation here is focused on county maintained roads. Some of those roads could be owned in, deeded to the county. Others could be prescriptive, where there's a right that has been established over the years. But for what the county through Public Works identifies as county maintained roads, we have 612 miles of roads. When we say roads, that includes, yes, the pavement, or in some cases unpaved road. We have, of those 612 miles, we have 464 paved miles of road and 148 unpaved miles. But it also includes not just the road that you're driving on. It includes the bridge that you might drive over. It includes culverts and drainage structures, other things that are on the side, signs, striping, everything. So everything associated with what you would think of as a road. Road condition is the next topic here, and roads are typically about every 3 years. The county has a kind of a one-time or a spot analysis of the condition of the roads. You can see the bottom. There's a scale, basically 0 to 100. 0 being terrible to 100 being excellent, outstanding. And as of 2022. The county was in the poor range, pavement condition index of 34. County or statewide, we are near the bottom of that. So that's something that we we come back to that at the end of this presentation. But it's certainly a goal to get out of the red and get into the orange and green if we can. So how we do it, how do we maintain our roads? The road department, or really the road division of the Public Works Department, it's a crew of 28. We break the county into 3 geographic areas. One in Lower Lake, and there's actually a shop, a road yard at each of these locations. So there's one in Lower Lake, one in Upper Lake, and one in Kelseyville. Historically, there were 5 years and years ago, and I believe it was literally by district. And then over time, things progressed. City of Clear Lake became, when it was incorporated, that obviously all of those roads went from county to city, and so that changed. And for goodness, for probably the last 20 or 30 years, maybe even more, we have had 3 geographic areas. So there's a foreman at each road yard. And then staff that works with him or her, but in this case they are him, and they have responsibility for the roads in that area. Now they are not independent teams. They work collectively. For example, the road crew just completed a bridge repair down the road here on Highland Springs. And they come together from all the different road yards. So any given day, they'll have responsibility for the roads in their road yard, or in their road area. But they certainly work together as a team. Above and beyond the 3 road area yards, we have a a paint and sign shop that handles county-wide paint and sign and actually vegetation, roadside vegetation removal and management. And there's also a support, the central garage, really it's a central services function for, in the case of Public Works, they handle the fleet, the equipment maintenance for the equipment that the county owns. You can see the list of equipment here. This just covers the larger pieces of equipment that we have. The day-to-day work is handled, I would say, by the bottom, really the bottom two, the sweeper and dump trucks. And what's not listed here is pickups and other things that they're using on a day-to-day basis. But the upper three, the chip spreader and the paver and the rollers, those are used really when we're in construction for pavement preservation work, which we'll go into a little bit of detail about really what that means. So how do we maintain our roads? It's a mix of a variety of different methods. First is a service request. So someone driving along and they see a pothole, they'll call in. At this point, it's a call in, and we'll plan to work toward a more 21st century model there. But call in or email in as well a service request that there's a pothole here. There's a down sign, and so that's on the reactive side. Emergency response is certainly another reaction. We have the staff are on call, and in the middle of the night there's a downed tree, storms, whatever it might be. Emergency response is another way that we handle or manage the road network. Routine maintenance. So this is more of the planned, the proactive side of maintenance. So this is everything from could be Durapatching, which would be kind of pothole patching, but it's a way where we maintain the road, striping of roads, replacing signs if they're not meeting standards, variety of different ways, clearing of roadside vegetation as it's growing in. So this is the planned work. The next pavement preservation projects, this is the higher end and more involved end of routine maintenance. And this is what we commonly call chip seal. Typically, when we do pavement preservation, we're talking about a chip seal. And what that means is to equate it to a house, we're talking about painting your house or maybe staining your deck. And so we're preserving the infrastructure that we have. We have a built road that's asphalt, and by putting a surface on there, it extends the life of that road. So the county road crew, on an annual basis, starting just last year, our target is somewhere in the range of 30-35 miles of chip seal per year. And what a chip seal is essentially it's a mix of oil and rock, small gravel, small chips, and we lay down first. There's a whole lot of prep work that goes into it. You have a road, and we want to make sure that when we preserve it, in order to preserve something, it needs to be decent in the first place. So we'll go in and do some necessary work that could include pothole patching or Durapatching in some cases. Could include doing some isolated dig outs, meaning we're digging a section out and rebuilding it up in a small area. Or it could have a small overlay of asphalt to create a better riding surface, followed by the application of that oil and chip mix. Above and beyond the oil and chip mix, we typically will place what's called a fog seal, basically a very, very light coat of emulsion or oil. It helps to bind the chips together, but it really does help it to look more like asphalt than a gravel road, even though it would be bound together and it's still asphalt. And then that would be followed by striping as necessary. The last category is capital improvement projects. These are typically done through contract and most commonly through grants received and secured through the Public Works Department. These are your larger bridge projects. These are your road widening or road reconstruction projects, and so these would be contracted out. But the sum of all of these categories is how we complete our work. Funding is the next category here. And by the way, the pictures that you see here are, I think the entirety of all the pictures are following the most recent chip seal project. So this is a chip sealed road. This was an asphalt road underneath, and this was what it looked like immediately following the application of the the preparation work, the chip seal, the oil and chip mix, fog seal, and striping. So chip seal, there are different ways of doing chip seal, and when we are using it, when we use the term chip seal, it's the application of oil and chips on existing asphalt to extend the life of that asphalt. Funding sources, again, sorry for the cutoff, but funding sources. There's a variety of funding sources that we receive. First off is a highway users tax account. Basically, this is gas tax, and the bulk of these are generated through gas tax, either at the federal or state level. The highway users tax account is that's at the state level, so it's a portion of fuel taxes. They are distributed among California counties and cities through a formula distribution. So where you buy your gas does not dictate how much gas tax that Lake County receives. That's separate from a sales tax, and we'll talk about that a bit. We do not have a sales tax in Lake County, but if you buy gas in Lake County, that gas, the tax generated from that is not staying here in Lake County. If you buy gas down in LA, it's not staying down there. It goes to the state, and it gets redistributed to all the California counties and cities through a formula. I would say that if we were entirely reliant on gas purchased in Lake County, we would be receiving much less than we currently receive. So it is formula. Now, with that said, we receive going off of some dated information, but I think it's probably still applicable. Lake County at one point had about 1% of the road network in California counties statewide, and we received about 1/3 of a percent of the funding of gas tax. So again, it's based on population. The way it's distributed to the counties, it's based on population. It's based on number of registered vehicles. There's probably a few other factors in there, but those are the main players. The next item on here is SB 1, California Senate Bill 1, that was passed in 2017. This is a portion of fuel taxes and vehicle registration fees, and this is a new funding, and I will just add the piece that I am the interim public works director. I have been in that position for about 9 or 10 months, so getting more and more familiar with the different aspects of public works. But this is a new one, at least new one to me. I used to work in Lake County Public Works over a decade ago, so this is a new funding source, and it's pretty significant. It's helping us to do more than just kind of reactive maintenance. So SB 1 provides Road Repair and Accountability Act. This is intended to help improve the road network above and beyond the highway users tax account, but it's still gas tax, but it was a bond measure that was passed. RSTP, Regional Surface Transportation Program. This is federal gas tax, so this comes through the pipeline and ultimately comes to us for use. Property taxes, very, very minimal. I think that's an important note. I don't have the exact number, but what the county, what Public Works receives for property taxes, in fact, I think we go into it a little bit later about what the actual amount is, but it's a common statement that I pay my property taxes, so I need my pothole fixed, or I need my road paved, or what have you, and I think you'll go on to see that the property taxes are not a heavy hitter with respect to road maintenance. Last there, and I apologize for the line through, but you can see grants and other miscellaneous programs. Grants and other programs. I'll highlight the grants. These primarily are one-time grants for projects. There's, to my knowledge, we have no grant for ongoing maintenance or ongoing staffing or anything of that nature. The grants that we receive are pretty non-discretionary. They are specific for, I'll give you an example, a highway bridge program at the federal level through FHWA. We'll get a grant for replacing bridges that are structurally deficient. We will get grants for safety projects. A variety of different grant programs. But as the commission is probably aware of, grants are great to receive, but it's not something necessarily that we want to rely on for ongoing work. But we certainly receive quite a lot of grants, and the engineering team at Public Works is that's essentially what they do full time, is managing the dozens of grants that we may have at any one point in time. So how much comes in? I talked about the funding sources, how much we actually receive. You can see in green is the highway user tax account. That's the state gas tax. In orange is the SB1 funding, which is the relatively new portion of state gas tax. So you can see that, you know, over 75% of the funding is through gas tax. I'll go in blue, even though it's the smallest item there, but it's the federal gas tax, so 11%. So you can see property taxes are there about $1 million a year. Now, the next slide goes into how it's spent. Green is routine operations and administration, and so this is where we are spending our money, and what I'm intending to show here is that we spend of the funding we receive, 70% of it goes to routine operations and administration. So we're not talking about any improvement projects. We're talking about going out and patching a pothole, going out and responding to emergencies, going out and striping on a somewhat recurring basis. And that funding, the funding used to do that is all of the state gas tax, HUDA, all of the property taxes, and all of the federal gas tax. So right there, we're not talking about doing any improvements. We're talking right off the top is all the gas tax we receive and all the property tax funding that we receive. So now we go into orange and yellow there, and this is the pavement preservation work and capital improvement projects, and that is SB1. So that is while it is gas tax related, it's the new portion of that. So we really rely on that. It's, again, a relatively new funding source over the last 8 or 9 years. So that SB1 funds on a recurring basis. Not shown here are grants. We can touch on that, but this is the ongoing funding sources that we rely on for doing routine operations, pavement preservation, and then some capital improvement projects. Though the bulk of our capital improvement projects are grant funded. All right, so pavement preservation projects. This is the portion of the presentation. In fact, I'll go back. This is the portion of the presentation that goes into what are we doing over the next 5 years. So this was an update to the Board of Supervisors, so they can be aware that Jim and his crew. Here's yes, we do have a plan, and where's the funding coming from? So this may not be the portion that Mireya really intended. I'll go through it because I think it's informative, and also I jumped back simply to show a chip seal project. In operation. You can see on the right side, actually I'm sorry, on the left you see the fresh asphalt, and what's in front is an oil truck. It's spraying an oil emulsion, and so things are obviously coming toward us. And then behind that is a chip cart. It's a chip spreader. You can see the dump truck putting the rocks or gravel into the cart, and so it's so it's laying the rocks and then the on top of the oil. And then following that, once we roll it and get it put in place, we would follow it up with a fog seal application. So the right side of the screen has already received the chips, and the left side would be the other lane being done. So walks you through a little bit. Okay, so I'll breeze through this. This looks back in time. This is the previous 5 years of pavement preservation work, or primarily chip seal work. You can see. From 2020 to 2024, some years nothing was done. There's a reason for that, but average over the previous 5-year period, they did 17 miles per year, and the screen on the left, or the map on the left, shows where that work was done. The plan for 2025, and we can talk about a bit about what was done. It's by and large, I would say 99% in line with what's shown here. The 2025 planned work, planned for 38.5 miles of chip seal. Estimated project cost was, in fact, it was completed. I'm sorry, this was, we gave this presentation after it was completed. So total project cost was about 1.6 million, and the cost per mile of on average, of placing a chip seal over asphalt roads was about $42,000 per mile. So it's important, to note that that is not a reconstruction cost. That is, reconstruction or repaving or doing this by contract. The costs would just skyrocket. So it's a testament to the road crew about what they can do, and really it's a testament also to the equipment that we've received over, well, not just received, but secured over just the last few years. And I'll go back. Why did we go from 17 miles to 38 and a half? Well, it's a combination of number one, just all right, we're going to do that. Let's commit to doing it. But we got some new equipment. We got a new chip cart. We got a new spreader, I believe, Jim, if that's right. So, but it's also a testament to their know-how. The road superintendent, just at the road superintendent and foreman level, I believe those four gentlemen have a combined. I added up at one point, and it was like 110 years of direct road maintenance experience. It was at least 100. So maybe that's numbers that Jim wouldn't want me to say, but so they're it's the equipment, but it's also the know-how that they're going out and they're finding out how the best way to do the work. So this year, last year, 2025, you can see some before and after photos, actually before, during, and after photos. So from left to right, you see Soda Bay Road. This is what it looked like before. On the left, in the middle is during. This would have been after the application of the chips and rolling it. And on the right is actually a picture we showed before, and that shows the after. Point Lakeview Road, similar. Just go through some, and we tried to pick some roads that, we're not just picking the ones that are great. You can see Lake Street. Okay, there's a pretty significant crack, and so we're doing prep work on that. And you also see Bonham Road here. Okay, that's one of the more rural roads, but certainly in not great condition, and we are chip sealing it. It's in the engineering world, you wouldn't chip seal a road like that on the bottom left, but the prep work that they do to get that road ready is really why this program is working. Some more, you can see Live Oak Drive and Big Bear Road, some ones that are not in great shape, but we're doing our best to extend the life of roads and rather than a full reconstruction, which would really dig into our funding. So looking forward, our goal is about 30 miles a year. So what's shown on here, and this is the plan for 2026 through 2030. Recognizing that plans can change, but we're forecasting doing the work that's shown on here. There's a variety of different colors, and the purpose of this presentation really isn't this, but I think it really helps to show that we have a plan. We intend to do 30 miles a year, and with that said, we've challenged, and Jim and I have discussed. All right, what would it take to get to 50? What do we need? How much would it cost, and what can we do to get 50 miles of road done a year? Because if we do 30 miles of road a year, one of the very first slides was how many miles of paved road do we have, and it's 464. So do some math, and you're talking about what, every 13 years or so coming back. Well, how do we cut that down? And so if we were to do 50 miles a year, what's it going to cost? So that's stuff that we're working on. You'll see an estimated cost per mile of $50,000. Harkening back to what the 2025 price was, which was $42,000 a mile. So obviously we're including some estimated cost escalations there. Average cost per year would be about $1.5 million. Total projected cost, about $7.8 million. And the funding sources that we have allow us to do this. So this is the plan, and I would even go so far as to say it will allow us to do it probably at the 50 miles per year. Then we start hitting the bandwidth piece. What can our road crew manage? So what do we need to do? What can we contract out that is cost effective? Can we hire extra staff, permanent or extra help? There's a variety of different ways. So that's work that we're in the process of doing. Projected results. You can see that these are projected. They're not perfect, but we're projecting that the road condition, the pavement condition index, I'm going to jump ahead because I think really shows it better. The projected pavement condition index countywide, if we do what we're talking about doing, you can see it would be on the rise, and that's a good thing. That means that we're getting out of that poor area into the fair, and so. So I think this is, this shows that we have a plan, that it ought to work. And when we look back at roads that we have done this on, even 5, even 10 years ago, those roads are holding up. It doesn't mean that we can just walk away from them. We need to do reactive and preventive maintenance, but it is working. And so going from 17 miles a year up to 30 and then ultimately 50, that's the way that we're gonna that we're gonna get out of the reverse curve where we keep going down with our pavement condition index. But we also need to continue to do it, I would argue, with county staff. Otherwise, the funding would just be eaten up. So that wraps up the presentation. And Mireya, I guess first I'll ask if there was anything that was missed there with respect.
No, that was great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I will defer to commission questions.
I don't have any questions.
Just one. When you had the administration and the that big green piece of pie, could you split out what is administration? What was the pavement part?
Let me see if I can go back. If I recall correctly, it doesn't.
The green one.
Routine ops,
Can you
yeah.
split that down? Routine operations and administration. Can you split those out?
You know what? Let me see if I can.
I didn't see it,
It would
but
be
I could've
it would be
missed it.
doing some math on the fly, but we're kind of lumping that in. It's administration. It's probably in the realm of 10-15% of costs. I mean, administrative. We're in budget prep, and so I have those numbers in mind. But I'm administration. We have accountants. We have a variety of different pieces and items that we purchase to provide support to the road crew. And I would say it's in the 10% range.
Okay, thank you.
So I just had a question on, you were talking about the road department and maintaining the roads, the weed removal from the sides of the roads. I know for years, tribes and even myself have had issues with Caltrans spraying sides of the road where there's medicinal plant gathering, basket material gathering. Are any of these projects that are involved, I wouldn't imagine there's an application or a permit that needs to be gathered from the department to do the work, but what are you guys doing to account for any of those types of impacts?
Well, any of the projects that we do, it's within the the road prism, and certainly roadside vegetation is something that we need to handle on an ongoing basis. But in preparation for the chip cart going through and some of the pieces of equipment, we may need to remove overhead, just limbing some trees. But what we do for ongoing weed spray is relatively controlled. We have areas that we don't spray. I mean, there's a process that we go through to ensure that we're not spraying in waterways, for example. But if it is in the road right away as a part of our maintenance to ensure that the infrastructure is maintained, we are doing what we can to address that the impact to the roads, but not. We haven't gone on a countywide basis and identified the location of any specific species, for example. But I'm not sure if that really addresses your.
Well, no, I think the thought is even understanding how to contact the department and who's the point of contact for those types of conversations to potentially mitigate any impacts or address concerns. Even just last year we had a tree down in the Sulphur Bank and it caused a traffic issue, and people are like, who do we call? Who are we supposed to call to have that removed? And so that's good information that I think the public needs to know more about.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll share that here. I mean, the Public Works Department, phone number is 707-263-2341. and the, that's the main line. After hours emergency, we get to the point where it's 911, right? I mean, if it's truly an emergency, we're calling that. Dispatch would contact us. But as far as any other contacts, I could be a contact for the commission certainly. Most of it would be routed probably to Jim Hale to address. That's it goes ultimately to him and his staff. Yep.
I'd just like to comment, this is related to what you're asking. I'm an organic farmer, and when we get certified, we can't have spraying obviously on the property, so we have been working with your department, it's been years, but they put up signs that say no spray, and the crews are very good about not spraying our property, and instead they come in and mow it, and we really appreciate that.
So I was wondering, have you noticed that increased traffic and or speed have a major impact on sort of the life of the roads or the quality?
Speed doesn't have much of an impact. What has an impact are is heavy equipment, heavy vehicles. The exact number is not in my mind, but you're driving say a Toyota Corolla. You could have 10,000 Toyota Corollas driving on that road, and one garbage truck has the equivalent of 10,000 passes. That's probably wrong, but it gives you the idea that what is most impactful is the heavy equipment. Now that's for the structure of the road. The surface can certainly get worn, but the biggest factor there is where we live, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that weather factors in, and when you have hot, dry, that's not the best mix. Now, water is also an issue. We need to ensure that water doesn't get into the road prism as much as possible. But the biggest factors are heavy. It's the heavy vehicles, and it's just the aging of the surface, primarily through sun and just aging over time. So Jim, anything that I'm wrong with there? I expect to be wrong many times, so I look to him. He's got more experience than I do there.
Thank you.
I have a question along those lines, and following that, is you mentioned grants, and I was just wondering, and of course the heavy trucks, we definitely saw in various different areas following the Valley Fire and other fires that the heavy trucks and equipment, basically a deterioration of our rural roads. And so I was just wondering, are there any grants that have come in or that are available in regard to fire and our excessive wildfire?
Well, on a reactive basis, yes. This predates the majority of my time with Public Works, but there have been grant. It may not be grant, but it would be funding that is connected to a specific wildfire. So whether it's response from the Valley Fire or any of the number of fires that we received, the impacts on roads, there was some. Now, forward-looking, mitigation for that. There are mitigation projects. That's typically to mitigate for fire impacting the road in the first place. So there are those are certainly out there. We have a hazard mitigation plan that identifies a variety of different projects, not just road related, but it goes across the board. And there's a hazard mitigation grant program through FEMA, I believe, and so there are grants out there for that. One of the locally, we do have in application a couple of different things with respect to heavy vehicles. We have a construction and refuse vehicle impact fee, and so the garbage trucks, the franchise waste haulers for Lake County, they pay a set fee per year as a contribution to the road department for the impact that garbage trucks have on county roads. For construction vehicles, when someone goes to get it, typically they're assessed a construction road impact fee in consideration of the impact that construction has on road traffic. I mean, just heavier vehicles. So and these are not not excessively significant. I look at other counties and those fees are much higher. Typically what someone would pay, but we do have that in place, and it's not the solution, but it's one of the many solutions.
Okay. And one other question, where can we and the public find information? You had some great maps with different colors of where roads and the projects for the upcoming years. Where can we find more specific information about what roads, the naming of roads,
Yeah,
about what to expect?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. We because it's a planning document and because things, we're forecasting 5 years from now and things can change. It's a living document. But as we get into each year, 2026 is probably more dialed down than 2030. But we don't have it yet. But it's not a difficult task. Is getting this posted on the county website. The Public Works Department recently went through. I literally just a few weeks ago was merged with the former Public Services Department, and so we have a good amount of work ahead of us to ensure that even the website is built so it adequately represents what Public Works is, and so it's an opportunity to get for example this presentation up there and at least the road list, the planned road list for the year. The challenge with that is people look for their roads and when it's planned and then there's a reason that it's taken off. And we just need to be prepared and have an explanation as to why. So I think that's something that we can do on an annual basis. Yeah.
I just have been trying to wrap my head around the way this is funded. It just doesn't seem fair to me. You referred to the formula by which gas tax is distributed statewide, and that it's based on population and the number of vehicles.
Those are the two primary factors, I believe, and forgive me that I don't have that right here in front of me, but it is a there's some challenges. Most other or a lot of other counties are self-help. They have gas tax. They have their own sales tax that goes towards gas, and so there's a lot of other counties. The reason that they have a higher pavement condition index is the funding that they receive. And it's certainly not perfect, but we do have at least Lake County as a part of various organizations, California State Association of Counties, California Engineers Association of California. They have their finger on the pulse of that and are certainly working, but I don't think there's been a change in the formula in decades.
Okay, thank you. I just think about how our rural nature here, we have more roads per capita probably than most other counties.
Yeah, and I also one of the other items is road miles. So road miles does factor in there. If it was strictly population and number of vehicles, we would be hurting quite a lot more than we are now. So I apologize for not including that. It just things are coming back to me now. Maybe when the interim name is no longer there, maybe it'll magically stick. But yes, road miles is certainly a part of that equation.
So the last question I have is, so I was just looking at something this morning of, I was a community member had a semi truck stop going over Hopland Grade, and so it's understood that that's not a safe road for those types of trucks to be traveling. Who issues that type of, and maybe it's CHP that issues those types of warnings of which roads can be traveled by certain vehicles? So the other night I had a semi 18-wheeler coming down Sulphur Bank Drive, and I know immediately that's not a road that size of a vehicle should be traveling, but I knew the location of where it's going. And so are those issues that your department would address or make recommendations to, or is that outside your scope?
Well, the state highway would be outside of our jurisdiction, but Sulphur Bank certainly would be. What I can comment on there is the onus is on the commercial driver to ensure that the route that they're taking is adequate for their vehicle. So, for example, say Highway 175 going over Hopland, right? There's signs there that talk about it. But prior to signs, there's resources available for the drivers to ensure that the route that they're planning to take is adequate for the vehicle that they have. That applies for the configuration of the road. It also applies to bridges. There are some bridges that are load rated, and we actually do receive through County Public Works requests for transportation permits because it's an oversized vehicle or overweight for, and so is this road adequate? So we would ensure that, okay, are all the bridges on that road adequate for that? But it is really, the onus is on the driver. I'm not privy to that. Jim, I might ask you because of your experience with commercial truck driving, but anything there if you don't mind.
The transportation permits, they'll go through me, so I'll check the route on those when we have them to see if there are any bridges, just overall look of the route to make sure a truck of its stature can make it through our roads. I don't really have anything else
That's fair
on
enough.
that, but
I appreciate it.
yeah, we good? All right.
And then the last part of it is how does your department, when you're talking about the weight of vehicles, how do you measure or gauge how that's impacting the roads? Are there identifiable things you see immediately when there's trucks of that size or heavy cargo that's traveling through, how it impacts the road?
Yeah, most of it is on the bridges, the roads themselves, unless we identify that there is something structurally wrong with the road. That's usually not the limiting factor. It's usually a bridge or the geography of the configuration of the road. Just a turn. Just because most of the roads that we have were former wagon trails, and okay, it was a dirt road. All right, let's throw some gravel on there. All right, now let's put some oil. We're talking about over the last hundreds of years it built up, and so to reconfigure every road so that a current truck can pass, that's a challenge financially, and not just a challenge, darn near impossibility. So we do our best to ensure that they can pass on those roads, but it's typically the bridge and the configuration of the roads. And so we would receive the notice for an overweight vehicle. Otherwise, the bridge postings are there, and that's the responsibility of the truck driver to ensure that they're doing that research.
I just have a comment. It's kind of the elephant in the room, I think, but maybe at some point at the state level, we as a community should be talking about using gas tax as a source for road maintenance. As everyone knows, we now have gas sales that are not collecting taxes in our community. And so maybe there's something we as a commission can do at the state level. I mean, I don't want to introduce a huge topic of conversation, but it seems to me it's kind of the elephant in the room. I mean, if all of our road repairs are based on our ability to get gas tax, it's something down the road to talk about.
I just have one other question. As we do road improvement, bike lanes, are those, what's the conversation on that?
There certainly consideration where we can get a bike lane, certainly. But to simply go out and all right, let's stripe a road and say that there's a bike lane there, we have to ensure that it's safe enough. I talked previously about kind of specific grant programs. That's a good example. There's an active transportation program through Federal Highways and Caltrans that is bike and pedestrian focused in a sense. It's active transportation, meaning not vehicles, I guess is a simple way to put it. So there are funding sources that provide for that. They're competitive. We're preparing applications as we speak for a few of them, but that's it's not something that we go out and say, all right, let's maximize pedestrian routes, but there are funding sources for them. And there are one example that's going into construction here pretty soon in Kelseyville, Canocti Road. It's a safe routes to school project, but it's adding a sidewalk on the south side of Canocti Road, essentially from the bridge near the high school to the elementary school. So it's bit by bit. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. It was most informative. Appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
I would like to know when my road's going to be paved.
Everyone does. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take a moment and transition to our first hearing. Turn it on and off. To our first project. So,
Commissioners, if you wouldn't mind
Was-
opening this item for public comment before you,
sure, of course.
before Laura.
Public comment or questions before we lose our expert here. So you have 3 minutes. Please state your name.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission, and I hate saying it, interim. Lars Ewing. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I do, roads are just one of those, yeah, I know I need to get out more, but roads are just one of those things I always love to look at and talk about.
Okay,
Tom.
could you state your name?
Yeah.
Tom Lasik.
Thank you.
Sorry. So a couple things that listening to the comments, and also hopefully Lars can ask some questions. Madam Field mentioned the gas tax issue. That certainly is an issue. It's being recognized. Once upon a time, gas tax was a really good proxy for miles driven. And as we realize, with more efficient vehicles and electric vehicles, and it's no longer a good proxy for the demand that we're placing on the roads. I mean, I drive an electric pickup truck, and it's heavier than a lot of vehicles, and I'm not paying a gas tax. So there needs to be a model that helps with that. I also encourage the county to take a look at what the city of Clear Lake has done by adding a very modest sales tax, and how that has sort of revolutionized their ability to maintain their roads. It gives them the leverage. Now they can declare themselves as being self-sufficient, and they can get additional grants and more funding for that. I did have a couple questions. One is, for example, I live on a private road, and I understood once upon a time there was some mechanism where we could work with the county to have them maintain our road. I don't know if that program exists, and if so, what that might be. That's one question. We used to put a case of beer on the grader, and that seemed to do the job, but I don't think that works as well as it used to. The other one is, and this is an example, this came from Spring Valley. They announced at the Earth Town Hall that there's going to be a lot of overhaul of their sewer and water lines, and that's going to dig up the road, and it's going to get repaired. My question to Lars, or to the commission, is, does that provide additional funding? Is that included in whatever grants they have? Or if a private like PG&E has to do something, how does the county ensure that our roads are brought back and made whole? And then the other one is on the CPI, on that whole index, does that include roads that were paved at least, or chip sealed at once upon a time, or does it also include the unpaved roads? And then finally, I just want to thank Lars for all the work. His crew's done a great job. He's really accelerated things. And the other last thing is, we do need to try to get it up to at least 50 miles of road, because my understanding is the life of the road averages 10 years before it needs to be redone. And if you do the math at 460 miles of road, that's 46 miles a year. And if we can get it to that or better, that would keep our roads healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer if any of those. Okay, I'll try to go, just going off of memory. The PCI, yeah, that 50 figure is really, that was the target, so that we could try to get to every road within 10 years. For say special districts or utilities that are doing work in roadways as a part of their encroachment permit with county roads, that's included. It's not, all right, you're doing any work in the road, so you need to pave the whole road. But what we're trying to get away from, and it's now embedded into our encroachment permits, is a trench right down the travel way that settles, and now you've got an issue there. So it could be half-width paving on a lane, one lane. So that's a potential. And the gas tax and electric vehicles, absolutely, I agree there. That is an issue, whether it's electric vehicles or more efficient vehicles. It may not be the best barometer there, and I'm probably forgetting one of the other questions that he had. And Private roads, thank you. The private roads, there is a mechanism. There's a private, goodness, I can't recall the exact name, but there are countywide service areas that have been established over the years for yes, work on private roads or kind of enhanced road maintenance or enhanced improvements on say a county maintained road. That could be a group of property owners coalescing together. What I would be concerned with there, I don't have much experience with the private road piece, so I'll need to dig into that a bit in response to Tom's question, and I will. I don't believe that we currently have anything. There might be some that are dated. I think they're all county maintained roads. So at one point in the past there was interest in that, but what I would struggle with, to be quite honest, is taking away staff time on county maintained roads for someone who's paying into it. So what I would suggest is if there's a mechanism for the county to be the conduit to have have contract work done, that would be an option. But what you probably step into there is now we're talking the county's involved, which means government, which means public contract code. So we're talking about paying prevailing wage. So it's certainly something to look into, but I think it would be concerning to me. At a minimum, it would be concerning to me to be pulling county road crew off of county maintained public roads to work on private roads, even if the mechanism is there to make it work.
Great. Any other comments from the public? One more. Please state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you, and thank you, Commissioners. Margot Kambara, Lake County General Plan Advisory Committee Representative. Interim Director Ewing, if you didn't know that your work was important, please know that your work is very, very important. Roads are an element of a required element of the general plan, and that is the health and safety element. We need roads for circulation. We need them for emergency ingress, egress, and evacuation. And as the Planning Commission knows, roads are a huge problem in Lake County. And I appreciate Director Ewing's difficult job, and his presentation was excellent. Thank you. What we saw was just part of the problem, part of the challenge, because we didn't even see the other part of the challenge that you as commissioners see when you look at permits and applications. And that is, we have roads that do not meet fire safe requirements. They are too narrow. They have too steep of a grade. They're not paved. There are no pullouts. And they're a threat to safety. They're a threat, and sometimes they endanger lives. So what I would suggest when we consider a road plan, road improvement plan, we go beyond the pavement condition index, and we need to come up with another system that, as Director Ewing said, accounts for all of staff resources and time. It has to be a holistic look at prioritizing our road needs, and health and safety has to factor into that. So we can't fix all our roads to be 4290 compliant, fire safe. No, we have to have a priority list, set up criteria. No, are we talking about so many residents on that road? Are we talking about there are so many accidents that are known, fatalities? So those are things that we should factor in. And yes, we are so constrained. We don't have enough resources, but we have not been addressing the need. And we have residents that are depending on all of us to keep us safe. So I'm sorry to pile more work on you and your department, but please, let's cast a larger net to keep everybody safe. And let me double check to see if I've covered everything. I had one thing about Commissioner Fields identifying the elephant in the room. Perhaps this is an opportunity for your commission to suggest to the Board of Supervisors that this is something for the lobbyists to look into revising the funding formula to get funding for road maintenance and improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Get that all on your list.
I can, yeah, I mean, I can respond here if
Okay,
you'd like, just
thank you.
briefly. The funding formula, yeah, the lobbyists, whether it's at the county level, I referenced earlier, though, a few state agencies, CSAC, California State Association of Counties, the rural county representatives of California, and they have lobbyists and that are constantly working on the legislative side. So so we do have that, but I wouldn't disagree, and I appreciate the comment that including that at the county level for an area of priority is important. I can say it is, in the sense of road improvements, maybe not necessarily up to this point anything specific to the gas tax formula, but I will carry that back to county administration and also those other agencies. A couple things just to touch on development reviews. When there is a development that is in review at the planning level, community development does an excellent job of working with the Public Works Department on what are the impacts of that. I mean, we're talking about evaluating a project for CEQA, at that level. But even what above and beyond CEQA, or really, I guess, included within CEQA, is a part of ensuring that all affected agencies have an opportunity to comment, and we do. So dependent upon the magnitude of the development, there could be improvements that are required on a county maintained road as a part of a development if it's that significant. That could mean building an entirely new road. Could mean adding a turn lane. Could mean making another travel way. Again, dependent upon the development. If we're talking about a single family home, probably not. Certain subdivisions, maybe not. But as things go up in magnitude, it triggers the need for traffic studies. It triggers the need for evaluating the existing condition of the roads and ensuring that when the road is not left in a worse condition than it was before. So that is included as a part of Public Works involvement with community development for during the planning stage of projects. And then on the safety side of things, there are a variety of different plans. Speaker referenced, Margaret referenced the general plan, but on roadside, there's a local road safety plan, actually, that is updated every 3 years. Just yesterday, I had a meeting on the current update to that. So it identifies, roads that be it fatalities, be it, severe crashes, areas that we ought to be focusing on and helping to prioritize. So a lot of the work that was referenced there is already done or being done.
Thank you. Any other comments from the room? Do we have anyone on the Zoom? All right. Please state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, Cheryl. Thank you, Director Ewing, for your presentation. I just wanted to ask a couple quick
Please
questions.
identify
When
yourself.
roads were- Oh, I'm sorry, Angela Emerald.
Thank you.
Johnson. Thank you. When roads are repaired, are they brought to 4290 compliance where necessary, or is this done during the capital improvement process? Is this more in regard to the applicability of the Planning Commission level with the increase of commercial projects and requirements for access via 4290 compliant road? And projects are required to have 4290 compliant interior roads. So I was just wondering if at what stage do you and your department, is it at the capital improvement step where you guys would look at making a road into 4290 compliancy? And then my other you mentioned heavy vehicles take a more significant toll on a road's lifespan. And I would like to point out again that the heavy weight of electric vehicles do take the same toll, much more than a Toyota Corolla, and they do not contribute to the fuel tax as well. And I think I've mentioned that to you before. Also for the Planning Commission, maybe a request to require developers to assist, knowing that there is such a struggle. We had living in a community that has private roads that are privately maintained. We had requests to the CSA to have the county maintenance, and that was so I'd like to request that looking at some bring roads to 4290 compliance on some of these bigger developments. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have another Zoom?
Good morning, and thank you for your presentation. This is Donna Makowitz from District 3, and I just wondered, we know that drains, culverts, and roads are major contributors to the lake sediment. How are improvements in this 5-year plan considering the major sediment loaders? And we have emergency roads that need repair desperately in the East Lake region, in High Valley and Spring Valley, and they don't seem to be a priority in this current plan compared to the last plan that we saw. And High Valley Road recent grading might need review. How does a citizen submit a request to have it reviewed for proper grading? Would we go through open.gov? And thank you. I really appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Is that the last one on Zoom? Thank you. All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Any last comments before we let?
I'd like to hear the director's comments.
Oh, pardon me.
Happy to respond there.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
With respect to 4290, you know, I'll need to dig into this a bit more, but I can't imagine that the expectation with 4290 was that 4290 would be passed, and then every county road department would be required to bring every single county maintained road up to that standard. That's I think that would be impossible with existing funding. So I think what comes to mind now is that development review. If there's a project that triggers it, what do we put on the development on the developer to do that? So I think that's a conversation that I'm going to suggest that Director Turner and I continue to have, so that I can educate myself on that. With respect to first off, with respect to High Valley grading, what I would offer is that information was received, and now the road superintendent heard it, and so we will look into that, the grading on the road, and so I think that closes that piece out. Roadside drainage, the work that is done through the presentation that I just gave about the 5-year pavement preservation program. Again, that's not making any we're not making any changes to the road. It's the preservation of the existing structure. We would be doing some clearing out of drainage channels and such, but that's anything significant would be done through the capital improvement project side, and that's on a site by site issue, not a county-wide issue.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? And we will thank Mr. Ewing for his presentation. And any other questions? I think you know where to find him.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Should we take a little break before we get started? Are we ready to go? Take a break? All right. Consensus is we'll take a little break, and so we'll come back in 10 minutes, which is 10:15. Thank you. If it's on. Before we get started, I'd like to invite the applicant if he or she would like to come up and sit on the dais and be available for questions. Could maybe we limit it to one? Two? Alrighty, yeah, two, yeah. Otherwise, there'll be nobody in the audience. Okay. Musical chairs, we're all ready to go? Okay, all right, so I would like to open the meeting again, and we have an item, our first item, consideration of major use permit, PL 25-354, UP 24-06, Osprey Farms, Alfred Fontana IV, and mitigated negative declaration for a minimum of 89,620 square feet, which converts to 2.505 acres of outdoor commercial cannabis canopy located at 7255 Boggs Lane and 7314 Adobe Creek Road, Kelseyville, APN 007-021-21 and 007-021-16.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. My name is Mary Claybon. I'm a Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. Today for your consideration is Osprey Farm, PL-25-354. The applicant, Alfred Fontana IV, Al, is present here in chambers at the dais, as well as his project consultant, Angie Dodd. The consultant has prepared a brief presentation following staff's presentation, and staff is recommending approval of major use permit PL-25-354 for 89,620 square feet of outdoor commercial cannabis canopy and a Type 13 self-distribution transport-only license. The parcel size is approximately 46.5 acres. The permit request consists of 89,620 square feet of outdoor commercial cannabis canopy and the Type 13 self-distribution transport-only license. The proposed Stage 1 facilities include 3 20 by 87 greenhouses for immature plant propagation, a 2,040 square foot existing drying structure on site, a 624 square foot barn, and a 480 square foot garage facility for ancillary use. The applicant proposes interior roadway improvements, security fencing with locking gates and a Knox box, 9 parking spaces, including an ADA compliant space, and a portable ADA restroom with plans for future permanent wastewater systems planned during Stage 2 of development. The Stage 2 facilities include an 1,800 square foot proposed drying building, a 1,140 square foot proposed processing building with an ADA restroom, and fire suppression water tanks meeting NFPA standards, and maintenance of defensible space for commercial structures in accordance with Public Resource Code 4291. The site description. The 46-acre site is located in District 5, approximately 4.8 miles southwest of downtown Kelseyville. Surrounding uses include agricultural lands, rural residential properties, and rural land zoning. The cultivation site is set back a minimum of 100 feet from the property line, and the nearest off-site residence is approximately 200 feet from the proposed cultivation area. Existing vegetative screening separates the proposed canopy from off-site residences. The applicant proposes full sun cultivation within a pre-disturbed vineyard area. No tree removal is proposed. The site is developed with an existing residence, detached garage, a barn, vineyard infrastructure, interior roadways, security gate, a well, and PG&E grid power. The regulations reviewed for compliance include the Lake County General Plan, the area plan, the Lake County zoning ordinance, CEQA guidelines, and state regulations with the finding found in the staff report. All impacts to the environment could be mitigated to less than significant with mitigation measures incorporated and outlined in the draft mitigated negative declaration, which is attachment 5 to staff's report, and draft conditions of approval, attachment 2 to staff's report. Public comment period occurred for the draft initial study mitigated negative declaration from February 19th, 2026 to March 21st, 2026. The Lake County General Plan, Chapter 3 Land Use, Chapter 7 Health and Safety, Chapter 8 Noise, and Chapter 11 Water Resources were reviewed. The Kelseyville Area Plan project maintains rural character, balances land use, avoids scenic degradation, includes archaeological preservation mitigation, and preserves existing vegetative screening. Notification of this project under AB 52 was sent to 12 local tribes on February 3rd, 2025, with no request for consultation. Tribal comment is available as attachment 10. A point of interest for this project is that the proposed project area currently functions as an established vineyard. The planned 2.06 acre canopy will be located outside of the 1,000-foot farmland protection zone buffer. An existing screening of woody vegetation and trees exists between the farmland protection zone and the proposed cannabis canopy area. The remaining property will continue to operate as vineyard. The Agricultural Commissioner provided agency comment that the site plan indicates outdoor cultivation will occur on the portion of the parcel that falls outside of the farmland protection zone. Agency comment is attachment 9 to staff's report. Recommendations for this project are to, environmental recommendations, adopt mitigated negative declaration for use permit PL-25-354 with findings listed in the staff report. The major use permit recommendation is to approve use permit PL-25-354 with the proposed conditions of approval and with the findings listed in staff's report. And I am available for any questions or comments that you may have.
I just had one quick question. Could you explain the I think it was the second to last slide. Farmland protection zone. So if part of the property could be on it, but the other half, it wouldn't include the entire parcel, right?
That is correct. So the shading in the red here is the farmland protection zone and the 1,000-foot buffer. Any projects that are proposed within the farmland protection zone do have to be mixed light greenhouse cultivation equipped with odor filtration activities. However, this project does not fall within the portion of the parcel within the farmland protection zone's 1,000-foot buffer.
Okay, thank you.
So then, what are the requirements then for the 3 greenhouses?
The 3 greenhouses are for immature plant propagation, and they will not be utilized to cultivate mature cannabis. This is only for the smaller plants prior to being planted, where they will grow to their maturity.
And how are these greenhouses going to be structured?
They are going to be permanent greenhouse facilities that require engineered building plans.
Will they have a cement base?
So, with recommendation from Cannabis Ordinance Task Force and the Board of Supervisors, we have discussed Anchor Point Foundation. At this time, Article 73 and amendments to Article 27 have not been adopted, so it would be at the applicant's discretion. However, I do believe that there are no permanent concrete slabs proposed for these structures.
Yeah, I didn't note it in the staff report, so.
Right,
Well,
that regulation is not yet in place, so we cannot enforce it within staff's report.
No, I mean, I just didn't see the kind of structure that it was going to be that was noted.
Okay, I can also defer to the project consultant and applicant, and they can tell you what their plan is as proposed.
Thank you. Any other questions? We can have their presentation.
I have a question. Number one, on the maps, can you go back to, maybe that one's, with all the black on the right is difficult, but a map, I mean, I was having difficulty as far as I'm looking from the information that was given to us. There's a lot of information on the map that we have. So I was just trying to get a feel of where, because at least I couldn't read with all the small print or whatever exactly where the roads are. I'm just trying to get a feel of exactly where the property is and where the project is going to be. And I understand now, as far as where the line is for the farmland protection zone. But anyway, yeah, if you could just orient us a little bit.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
Commissioner. So the canopy as proposed is this area here. There is an existing roadway here that would go through the middle of the canopy, and the greenhouse structures are proposed here with the turnaround meeting 4290 requirements here.
Okay,
Could you show us where Boggs Lane and,
correct.
yeah, where those two roads are?
Sure. So Boggs Lane is in this area here. These homes here, or sorry, the other side. Boggs Lane is here on this side, and then this is Adobe Creek on this side.
Where is Boggs Lane?
On this side here.
So where does this property front on?
So this property has two fronts. It has this access here, and then also vineyard access from the back portions here.
So the proposed area is in the center.
That is correct.
Okay,
That is correct. It is, the proposed canopy is here.
okay. Yeah, and point well taken, that it was hard to figure out where it was. Thank you.
And I am going to have a question, which I'm sure will, perhaps will be covered, but following, and I'm sorry because I didn't know we were going to have the roads presentation. I guess it didn't look that closely at our agenda, but perfect timing. I see the Public Works did comment on this project and had recommended that the main access for this property, for this project, be off of Adobe Creek, given the condition of Boggs Lane being a narrow road access. So I will have questions, or I do have questions around that.
Okay, and I did a site visit for this location in March, and while I was on site speaking with the applicant, I did have the opportunity to see the access on the backside, which is the vineyard access. The cannabis access is proposed on the other side as to not disturb any neighbors here on this side.
So it's proposed on the Boggs side, the Boggs Lane side,
That
so
is-
as not to disturb neighbors on the Adobe Creek side.
That is correct.
Okay, but again, Public Works had recommended because of the condition of Boggs Lane, and to that and to the other thing that I noticed in the agency comments is that there was nothing from the fire department in regard to this project and the road access.
That is correct. And Public Works did state that a commercial upgrade for an encroachment permit would be required for the access as proposed.
Right. And I would also like to just clearly state that while I did not do a site visit on this project, I did do a site drive-by. So I did travel up Boggs Lane and around Adobe Creek there as well. So
Before we ask the applicant to give her presentation, can you note how many other cannabis grows are in the area in 1 mile and 3 miles, please?
Sure, that is listed in the staff report. Let me take a look at that. There are 0 pending and 2 approved commercial cannabis projects within a 1-mile radius of this proposed project location. And there are 3 pending and 10 approved commercial cannabis projects within a 3-mile radius.
Thank you. Any other questions for now? Okay. So, we'd be happy to have your presentation.
So I have a formal presentation. I hope to keep it under 5 minutes. I've kind of just pulled out things I think are important to point out.
Microphone, yeah. We can hear you, but no one else can.
Sorry about that. I'm Angie Dodd, agent for the applicant with North Point Consulting Group. I have about a hopefully 5-minute presentation, trying to keep it short, but the applicant has asked if he has a statement that he would like to do, and he said he would like to go first, if that is okay with you.
Of course.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Speak closer into the microphone, please.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for attending this very important day with us. My name is Al Fontana, the applicant for this project. I moved to Kelseyville in middle school. While attending Kelseyville Middle School and high school, I was a student athlete. My last 2 years of high school, I had the privilege of being in K-Corps Search and Rescue. After high school, I attended college for a year. But, sorry, I'm very nervous. But I ended up back in this county I fell in love with as a young boy. Since moving back, I've been heavily involved in agriculture, construction, mechanics, and fabrication. I have 2 kids in the Kelseyville School District that are involved in sports. And I push them daily to be student athletes. This year will be my 5th year coaching the youth football in Kelseyville. 2nd year as a football director. I'm a family man that works hard, takes pride in the way I present myself and what I do consistently. Sorry. The last 6 years, I've been managing Osprey vineyards. My farming style has always been letting the plants talk to me. At the vineyard, we have avoided PM, powdery mildew, by having healthy plants and a solid watering strategy. We remain dedicated to being sustainable, organic, and biodynamic throughout the management of this vineyard. We have been able to achieve what other local farmers thought would be impossible. When we first took the vineyard over, we were able to harvest 40 tons. Second year, second harvest, 80 tons. Third harvest, over 110 tons. All from working the soil the right way. Living soils are the secret to all plants and vines to be able to fight off unwanted pressures from pests and molds. With our organic biodynamic farming strategies, we fight pests and bugs we don't want with other predator bugs instead of harmful sprays and chemicals. I've set up multiple commercial cannabis operations here in Lake County for companies. 5 years ago, I decided to propose one of the most unique cultivation sites in Northern California to the vineyard owners. So 5 years plus and an unbelievable amount of money later, here we are in front of you this morning. While most cultivation sites are ripped and flattened, we plan to utilize the vine infrastructure by removing the vines that are not as densely planted on the site area. We plan on planting in smart pots and placing them where the vines were under the existing infrastructure. The cannabis plants and vines will grow alongside each other. In my mind, making this one of the most unique cannabis operations around. The plan is to create a premier soil-to-shelf organic cannabis product through regenerative practices. During this application process, we were sure to use the most reputable companies for all the reports we had to have done, and the best consultants around to help us with these extremely complex cannabis documents and the whole project. I've already established a connection with local dispensaries here in the county, and they are happy to hear that a quality product will be produced here in our county, and are more than ready to have our products on their store shelves. With that said, I understand we have bordering properties, owners with concerns about smell and amount of traffic added. Traffic is easy. It will be myself that already is at the vineyard along with 2 existing workers and the owners. When it comes to the smell, we are willing to make accommodations like planting lavenders, marigold, different plants around the bordering of their property, along with additional screening and whatnot to go with it. Excuse me. We will work with the bordering properties and their owners to address any concerns that they have throughout this whole process and into the future of farming. But keep in mind, this is only a 2-acre cannabis project. Lake County has 10, 15, and even larger acreage in more complex areas like slopes and riparian areas. Not to mention, a small fraction of farms operate organically or even participate in environmentally conscious farming practices. With that said, Osprey Farm is determined to be the organic model for the county, and hopefully show other vineyard owners that there is a model operation that can help the dying wine industry. I am truly grateful for your time this morning, and I appreciate you hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully I can figure this out. So thank you again. I'm Angie Dodd with North Point Consulting. Quick presentation with some additional information regarding the project. Mary already went over the majority of the project details. One thing I wanted to point out about employees. So when we look at employee count, we try to be conservative and show a range and include a higher amount. This is an existing operation, and they plan to use existing employees, so we don't technically see a large increase in the number of employees throughout the operation, but it was analyzed for 1 to 3 full-time, 1 to 6 seasonal, with some of those already working on site for vineyard activities. I don't know if Mary mentioned it. There's existing PG&E, and then there's also the option for solar panels for wells and for pumps. It's usually more cost effective if you can get 4 to 8 solar panels on a pole than doing a new PG&E connection if necessary. There are no, as Al mentioned some of this, there are no on-site water courses. We're outside of the farmland protection zone. There's screening around the property. I have some nice photos of the screening. The nearest off-site residence is 200 feet to the west. That's actually from the fence line, not the cultivation area, so it's a little bit further. The vineyards in the south were planted in about 99, and the ones in the north were planted about 2016. So it's been cultivating. It has a proven history of agricultural operations similar to what's being proposed. So just again, an overview of the area, showing not as noisy as our engineer's site plan, but just showing the general cultivation area, the parcel boundary, and then just to get a visual of the nice vegetation screening around the property that the applicant proposes to maintain. So usually one of the most contentious things is the hydrology, the water use and demand, and the impact to surrounding wells. So I prepared the ordinance 3106 hydrology report, I think back in 2023, updated it a little bit in January of 2026. I'm a licensed water resources engineer. I have a PhD in water resources with experience in surface and groundwater modeling. I've been practicing, teaching, modeling, doing this for almost 30 years now. So in terms of the hydrology report, one thing I wanted to clarify, I noticed in some of the meetings, we always talk about how demand is estimated. I really try and be conservative on the high side in my impact analysis, usually knowing that cultivators are going to be using less than that. But it's important when you're doing an impact analysis. So just a little clarity on what I do. I base it on the cultivation canopy area, not the number of plants. And that's because plants vary depending on cultivator. You could have a bunch of small plants or fewer big plants. And we know that the demand of different size plants is going to be different. The canopy area, because you're getting licensed for a specific canopy area, does not change. So I focus on canopy area. There are published resources out there for demand per square foot. The range is about 1.2 to 14.7 gallons per square foot of canopy per year. That's up to 3,560 gallons per day per acre of canopy. The lower amount's 290. I base all my analyses on the upper, the maximum amount to be conservative. If you're using the 6 gallon per day per plant from the Bauer article, I did some research on where that number came from and even asked the online AI. No one can tell me where that 6 gallons per day per plant came from or what the size of that plant is, which is interesting, but ChatGPT says everyone still uses it as a metric. So it's a common one that we all use. But it does number of plants, and if you don't know the size, you don't know the size of where that 6 gallons came from. I'm seeing a wide range in gallons per day, depending on plant size. I'm seeing 1 gallon per day quite often per plant. And that's over the year, taking into account baby, teenager, vegetation, and then flowering states. So again, I base my hydrology report on the conservative upper value of 360 gallons per day per acre. To get an idea, because there's always questions on this, I've started interviewing local cultivators that keep records, what I think are decent records of their water use throughout the season. We're getting more and more of this. I'm always expecting someone to publish something for me. No one has done that yet. So a good college exercise. But I'm seeing a range between, and this is in Lake County, 1,400 and 3,100 gallons per day per acre. I'm told, the demand is going to be influenced on style, growth stage, plant size, medium, weather, watering style, et cetera, cultivator. Again, I use the upper limit of the range that I'm seeing in the literature. I account for, throughout the season, I account for vegetative and flowering stages where the vegetative stage uses a smaller percent, flowering stage uses a larger percent, but the average gallon per day is still that 3,560. It just distributes it over the months so I can get a better idea of what the maximum gallons per day is. And so for this project, for 2.06 acres, the range is about 3,000 to 10,000 gallons per day, depending on plant stage. Doesn't account for starts and juveniles. It just assumes all of it's vegetative and flowering. So it's a little conservative, with a total of 880,000 gallons over the year. And you can see in that, with the highest in the hotter summer months when the plants are flowering. This analysis was conducted based on not just the proposed cultivation, but the existing vineyard and the proposed cultivation. The cultivation's going in an area where the vines aren't really doing very well. So they're basically replacing, it's like kind of like for like replacement of agriculture. And it's about, I used vineyard estimates from Lake County groundwater management plans, and then the conservative estimate for cannabis, and there's about, with the 2.06 acres of cannabis, there's going to be about a 3% increase in demand. Just an overview of the site. The project actually the site has 5 wells. Well number 1 is a domestic well not used for cultivation. Well number 5, I think, is another domestic well. It doesn't have a well completion report. I just mentioned it in the report, but it's not used for irrigation. The important wells are the 3 irrigation wells. Well number 2 is the vineyard well. Well number 4 is the proposed cannabis well. And well number 3 is the backup well. They're all quite robust wells. And I'm sure once they get operating, you have to report your water usage. So there are laws and rules and regulations with the water board and the state. So as those change and you can interact your ag activities, I'm sure there'll be better management of where that water comes from the wells. But for right now, this is the plan. There's a pond on site that's used to irrigate the vineyards. It's got about 4.5 acre feet of storage. And then currently proposing a solar pump about 5 to 10 gallons a minute to fill up just over 20,000 gallons of storage tanks. That's about 2 to 4 days of storage. And then piping from the storage tanks to the drip line irrigation system. Where's my picture? Uh-oh. So there's a big picture here of the Big Valley groundwater basin from the 2022 sustainability plan. Sorry. Clear Lake is up here. The project is in the lower southern portion of the Big Valley groundwater basin. Sorry that the map isn't very good. There are Department of Water Resources monitoring wells in the vicinity of the project. We looked at those wells, and they tend to be stable over time during the, I think, drought years in the 70s. There was a drop, but with all the agriculture activities going on in this localized area where the project is, we're not seeing a decline in groundwater trends. In addition, according to the Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan, the basin is operating within its sustainable yield, which is 29,000 acre feet per year. The project's cumulative demand is less than 0.01% of that sustainable yield. Recharge, the ordinance 3106 reports require an estimation of recharge. I've gotten more elaborate with this. I pull off the precipitation. I try to do it over the most recent 25 years. It takes a few years for these projects to get through the system, so you'll see they may not have the most recent year in them. But this graph represents the cumulative vineyard plus cannabis estimated demand, and then the long-term average annual recharge using the actual precipitation from the PRISM gauge. And you'll see that we had a dip. This is from 2000 to 2024. The lowest on record in Lake County is 2013, and we see a dip there. But it's filling up over time. It doesn't all get used. So I like to do just a 2-year running average, just to show that, yeah, it dipped, but there's still plenty of recharge to meet the demand of the project. And then the conclusions, there's sufficient recharge and supply to meet the project's additional water demand during both average and dry years. The project's demand itself the cumulative demand is insignificant compared to the Big Valley groundwater basin usable storage. The basin is operated within its sustainable yield. Cannabis is replacing a vineyard. It's ag for ag. With implementation of the water conservation measures, the proposed project would not have a cumulative impact on the surrounding area. It's demonstrated continual use through the agricultural operations of vineyard growth over the years. The project includes seasonal static water level monitoring and reporting and drought measures, and they're included as mitigation measures, Hydro 1 through Hydro 3. And they're listed in the conditions of approval. There were comments regarding odor. I think Al addressed some of those comments, but they're also addressed in the property management plan. There's a notification program where the applicant would give all property owners within 1,000 feet of the operation contact information for someone to contact if there's an odor complaint. I know there's a complaint process with the county as well that would get back to the applicant. There are measures within the operating plan that could be implemented Al mentioned some measures. I'm sure cannabis cultivators are getting more creative with strains and other types of vegetation surrounding, and then maybe some passive engineering measures to be considered. And then the applicant will maintain the existing vegetation buffers, which I think are important. And just a picture, this is from the vineyard looking west. This is that area on the west side of Adobe Creek Road where the residences are, and you can see there's a pretty thick vegetation buffer and a really nice sunset. There were comments regarding the biology. So the majority of the site is either vineyard or developed. There are no water courses on site. The nearest water course is Adobe Creek. It's about just under 1,000 feet to the west. Thank you. The site is not hydrologically directly connected to a surface water. It's also enrolled in the Water Board General Order, which the purpose of that is to protect resources. And then there was a comment regarding the C and DDB map, which is, I always forget, the California Natural Diversity Database, which tracks, basically, I always call them bugs and bunnies, plants, animals, and sensitive species. So the project parcel is here, and there's nothing in the immediate vicinity of the project parcel. And then just closing remarks. The project is in a proposed area with a history of successful agricultural operation and irrigation water use. It replaces similar existing ag activities and does not result in a significant increase or intensity of use. The project is an agricultural project in alignment and consistent with planned land uses in the area and has been designed in accordance with existing land use and zoning requirements. So both Al and I are here for questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions from the commission, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
Yeah, I have a question. So the $10,000 fire suppression storage, is that included in the 20,500 storage for the operation?
No, that's a separate amount, and that volume was determined based on the largest commercial building on site. So it's based on the buildings on site. So it's per NFIP standards.
Okay, thank you. And also, is the vineyard and cannabis going to be farmed at the same time? Like both continue to be worked on? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions for now.
Thank you. I have a question again on the roads. With the vineyard operation, how did the trucks for the vineyard operation access the property?
They go through the Adobe Creek gates. There's two giant double gates, so the big double trucks can get through and back out. That's our staging area during harvest. Or if we have any big equipment come in, it comes in that way to get dropped in. So.
Okay. In regard to the irrigation wells, in the staff report, it indicates 2 backup irrigation wells, emergency use only. Can you define kind of what that emergency use, I don't know if it's a question for staff or for the applicant, but can you define what that emergency use would be?
I would defer to the project's consultant for that question.
So currently the only well that's being used is well number 2. It has a pump and everything attached to it. It's active. Well number 4 is currently capped, and a pump would need to be added to it. Well number 3 is also currently capped. Okay. So it's if something happens to the well that it no longer functions, and they may need to go to the other well to be able to use that. So it's just for that reason.
Okay. And then I also have a question, and this is more out of curiosity, an educational thing. Also with the irrigation you're giving a water analysis on the irrigation of the canopy, and I was wondering is the irrigation of also the immature plants within the greenhouse, is that included in the water usage that you shared with us, or is that separate?
It is. It's an insignificant amount, but it's included as more of a vegetative plant state than an immature plant state, so it's overestimated.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Questions, Miley? I have a couple questions. How many storage tanks, water storage tanks, did you say were going to be on the site, added?
Gonna make me do math. There's 3 6,000 proposed, so that's 18,000. And then 1 2,500 gallon, which is water storage and, is it called fertigation? Is that the right term?
So a total of 4 are going to be added. And what is the padding or the structure underneath these water tanks?
Usually if they're under a certain amount, you can get away with gravel base on those.
So they would be gravel-based? Okay. A question on the greenhouses. What is the structure? I asked earlier, what is going to be the structure of the greenhouse? Are there going to be cement pads, or is it going to be gravel?
No, ma'am. Not it will be gravel. It'll be anchored down in the correct way. And then as far as the center, it will not be concrete. It might be gravel, or it might be a fabric of some sort, just so we can keep the greenhouses clean from contaminants.
And so the tie downs will be cement tie downs?
Yes, whatever is recommended by code, we will go ahead and follow.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question. As you're probably aware, there are some very concerned neighbors who have written to us about this. You stated that you would reply to neighbors who have odor complaints, and so I'd just like to know what your plan is. If someone has an odor complaint, what you'll do.
Yeah, so with these complaints that have come up already, we've already taken the proactive side and given my contact information to all of these complaints, the people that are complaining. So they have my contact information already to contact me and talk about these things. So anytime they would like to contact and talk about stuff, I would love to settle it out and make both sides.
My question is, what would you do about it? What would you do to remedy the situation?
As of right now, we have putting in like beneficial plants and stuff like that, stuff that would, help out the vineyard as well, bring in predator, bugs and stuff. But at the same time, give them a pleasant smell that they could possibly get some lavender or some marigolds or something that they prefer. I'm completely open for any type of suggestions. I am probably one of the easiest people to ever work with. So we want to make everybody happy in this case, right? If they're having some type of problem, we want to accommodate it. We do not want to be the thorn in their side, on the other side of the bush from them. So we want to be coexisting. So.
Well, I very much appreciate that. I'm concerned about it.
So with that, are the greenhouses, what kind of filtration system do you have for the greenhouses?
So the greenhouses will be immature plant only, not adult plant. The odors from adult flowering plants.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the one question I have, during the Archaeological Resource Management Report, was a representative from the tribal community involved with that report or that site visit?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, the reason why I bring up that question is it helps in terms of when you get down to section tribal cultural resources under item 18, it'll give the opportunity for the tribes to look at what's on the land and what the potential tribal cultural resources will be. And I know the onus is on the tribe to identify those tribal cultural resources, but if they're not allowed access, there's not a way they can identify potential tribal cultural resources separate from cultural resources.
Commissioner Brown, if I could direct the commission's attention back to the staff report, notifications were sent out to the tribes, but we received no request for consultation or site visits.
Yeah, I recognize that, and that's why the question is, if there's no access, then there really there's going to be no response, and that's what my question is. So if you don't have information, how do you respond?
Typically, when a tribe requests a site visit, our staff does facilitate that. But we rely on the tribe to request it.
Okay. to require, the cultural resource study to require or provide opportunity for tribal cultural resource experts to be a part of that initial inventory of and study.
That is more of that's more of a staff and policy development issue.
Yeah, so that'd be my
But
recommendation.
definitely take note of that. Thank you.
Can I just clarify something? You are the operator, you're not the owner of the property, is that correct? And the owner of the property is?
Is in the audience, or in the sitting down.
Okay. Thank you. All right, if there are no more questions right now, I'll open it up for public comment. So if you'd like to step forward, state your name, you have 3 minutes to share your comments.
Good morning. My name's Kevin Boyd. I'm a property owner on Adobe Creek, one of the neighboring properties. I have a couple of items that I had some concerns with. It kind of just came up in this most recent question, which who owns the property and versus who's operating the grow, as it were. I could not find the listed LLC registered with the state of California Secretary of State. So I'd like to see some clarification on what entity is in fact operating this enterprise. It's been extremely confusing trying to do research on that. And frankly, given the fact that it's cannabis, there are ongoing issues with crime and organized crime related to cannabis grows, whether legal or not. And so I want to make sure that this is all above board. I did find an issue that I did bring it to the attention of the CDD regarding the submittals saying that there aren't any school bus stops within 1,000 feet. That is basically inaccurate. The school bus stops at any family home along Adobe Creek Road in their driveway. It's a rural road. The kids don't walk to a designated spot. So when we first bought our house, the school district didn't know there wasn't children there anymore, and they stopped in front of my house every single day for almost a whole year. So in my estimation, whether or not there's a family there currently is irrelevant. Our area relies on that kind of school bus service. That is something that needs to be taken into consideration. When I brought it up, I was told future children don't matter. I don't think that's appropriate. Finally, there was a grow across the street on Adobe Creek previously. It started out, I was told, as legitimate and then devolved into an unlicensed grow and then turned into a nuisance property, multiple fires, people living there that weren't supposed to be, squatters, I suppose. And so part of the problem I have with these approvals is there is no follow-up. So they inform us that there's going to be potentially a grow, but there will be no follow-up, as far as I'm aware, if it falls out of compliance. And then the neighborhood is essentially responsible for putting up with the nuisance that becomes. And we already have experience with that once. So I'd like to see some kind of back-end mitigation that doesn't require us to endure that nuisance for years before the sheriffs come with a helicopter and haul off the plants. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Paul Duncan, CAL FIRE. Come in with some comments on the 4290 aspect. There's no reference material on where they pulled the information on the 4290 standard, so I'd just like to see in that application that it references what the road capacities are and a little more detail in that. It just says meet 4294 or 4290, 4291 standard, but it doesn't say what those standards are or where those standards were pulled from. So that's a couple of concerns with that. The other is there's a water tank that's indicated for fire suppression, and it should have some connections on it for fire department. So nothing was detailed in the plan as a 2.5-inch fire department connection on there. So we did not get notification on the plan until it came out. Normally it shows up in our email or permit process, so I didn't see any of that, and neither did Chief Wink, and I have not checked with Kelseyville Fire for input from them. But since there's no change in the buildings are staying the same, I wouldn't see a whole lot in there. It's really the access and the road standards. So, and just to maintain road standards all the way around the property in case we have to get, somebody falls down in the back of the property, they have to bring a fire engine or an ambulance back there. We want to make sure those road standards are applicable all the way around the property. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And certainly road standards have been a lot of conversation around the last year or so around projects. So thank you for making that notation. Any response about the hookup for the water tanks?
That's not a problem. This is more of a planning level application, so some of those fine details come into play once we get to building permit application phases, so those start getting checked off where fire gets a second time, sometimes third, fourth time to review those items.
Certainly a concern, as
Yeah.
we all know fire is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please step up, state your name.
Yeah, my name's Dave Hughes. I just want to make a general, having been a planning commissioner once for Lake County, discussion about the odor, will lavender really, I mean, when you get to a certain time of year with cannabis grow, it gets pretty odorous. And I guess my only thought was there could be some mechanism in the use permit itself to revoke it if it becomes a nuisance to the neighborhood. Just a suggestion. If he's able to control it, the neighbors are not all up in arms about odor, fine. But if it becomes a nuisance, then I would think there'd be a mechanism to revoke the use permit.
Thank you. Other folks
Commissioners,
in the
if I could
audience?
just remind the commission that these projects are subject to annual compliance monitoring site visits. We will not leave them for years to become nuisances. Additionally, we do not, just to reiterate, we do not have any buffer zone or distancing from bus stops.
Please state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Joya
Closer to the
DeSimone.
mic.
My name is Joya DeSimone, and I am reading this letter on behalf of my father, Giacomo DeSimone. And his house is the house that is 200 feet directly behind the grow. I have lived at my home since 1979, and over the many decades, I have come to value the peace, stability, rural character, and tranquility of this neighborhood. The introduction of a commercial cannabis cultivation operation in such close proximity to my home represents a significant and unwelcome change that I know will negatively impact my quality of life, property value, and sense of security. Encroaching, by definition, is the intrusion upon another's rights and territory advancing beyond acceptable limits. You may say that this matter of odor is subjective. Marijuana is defined as smelling like sulfur and rotten eggs produced by thions significantly processed within the plant. I implore you to tell me who would enjoy this unwelcome odor a mere 200 feet from the window of your home, especially when you are not the initiator of this smell, and my dad merely gets to inherit the malicious odor. He is also concerned about potential environmental impacts, including water usage, pesticide application, and runoff, all of which could affect surrounding land and local ecosystems. The following legal and policy standards further support his request for this denial of the project. Under Lake County's Cannabis Regulations, Chapter 21A, Article 72, the county is required to ensure that cannabis operations do not create adverse impacts to neighboring properties, including impacts related to odor, noise, and safety. Given the immediate proximity of this proposed project to my residence, these impacts cannot be adequately avoided or mitigated. Additionally, California Civil Code 3479 defines a nuisance as anything that is injurious to health or interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property. Persistent cannabis-related odors and associated operational impacts would substantially interfere with my ability to enjoy my home and property, raising significant nuisance concerns. I ask you to meet me at my home and witness the vicinity of this proposed grow in relation to my personal property and how impactful this will be on my life and well-being. This proximity, which I know you will agree, is far too close for nuisance smell and security concerns. For these reasons, approval of the permit would be inconsistent with applicable local standards and state law. I respectfully request that the county carefully considers the long-term impacts this project will have on established residents like myself and deny the proposed project permit. After more than 4 decades in my home, I believe that my concern and those of others similarly situated be given the substantial weight in your decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additionally, I would like to let the commission know that the request for review was sent to Kelseyville Fire on February 3rd of 2025.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Yes, my name is Brian Ricebeck. I'm the owner of the property. My name is Brian Ricebeck. I'm the owner of the property with my wife Veronica here as well. Basically, I was born and raised in Lake County, have much respect for the farming community that it is, and my family's been here since the early 1900s. And basically, you know, our current farming practices at the vineyard are organic, sustainable, and we plan to do that with cannabis, where we have our CCOF certification for the vineyard. And kind of when I bought the property, the first thing that we did is we came in, it had been blasted just like all of the other vineyards with sprays and, you know, nightly dustings of sulfur. And that was the first thing we put a stop to at the vineyard, because I don't think it's sustainable. And, you know, we were taking into account as well the neighbors and their, you know, being able to open their windows in the summertime at night. Yeah, and as far as the, you know, my concerns as a vineyard owner are on the future of the wine industry. It's taken a really hard hit the last few years, and, you know, we can see the kind of the evidence of that in just the amount of properties that are being sold, vineyards that are being ripped out, and the goal is to have sustainable agriculture no matter what the market is. In the wine industry or the cannabis industry. And really our thing is to, you know, take care of our neighbors. You know, we're open to working with them in any way possible. We've tried to reach out, you know, and just have kind of been stonewalled. So, you know, my door's always open. I know Al is willing to work to make everybody happy and comfortable. And that's all I have. Thank you, Commission.
One quick question for you. How long have you owned the property?
For 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question, do you reside on the property?
Part-time, yeah.
Another question, are you concerned about the transfer of terpenes to the grapes and affecting the wine?
We're not. We've kind of looked at the studies there so far, and there just isn't enough evidence to support that. So, you know, we'll kind of see if we need to remove that, you know, some vines we can, or not pick vines, you know, if there's any type of impact. So we'll continually monitor that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question.
Yes.
Is the side of Adobe Creek Road of the property fenced or enclosed with anything?
So the whole vineyard is fenced with a, I want to say it's a 7-foot fence around the whole vineyard. And, you know, there's interior fences as well as part of that, just that kind of carve out, you know, different sections of the property as well.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions before we? Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, if I can, as far as the tribe, I also wanted to, you know, reach out as far as they're welcome to come to our property and kind of see its value to, you know, the tribal ancestors, et cetera. You know, we're very cognizant of that. We didn't realize that there was an opportunity to invite them into the project. So, yeah, I just wanted to include that as well.
Thank you. State your name. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Praj, excuse me, Praj White. I'm a consulting engineer and I work at North Point Consulting with Angie Dodd. And just hearing the comments, I wanted to bring attention that the odor abatement plan that has been presented provides tools for the property owner not only to be kind and work and use solutions like flowers and other items. It also allows to escalate to systems like Bioscientific that has odor mist systems that have been proven throughout areas like Santa Barbara County and others that have tried and true to help resolve these matters between people's preference of odor. And there are tools, and hearing the property owner or the operator suggest he's going to be easy to work with. It is written into the plan that if the first steps don't work, he can elevate that to an actual scientific system proven to even deal with like waste management odor and sewer treatment odors. So there are tools, and he's already presented solutions that he can reach to solve that problem. I wanted to touch in on the fire access and the roads around. That, you know, there is not going to be much of an intensity of activity on this site. The site already has access around it for protection, and the condition you are stating that a commercial driveway entrance will be added so that access to the property will be improved, and all improvements to access cannabis activities on site will meet the 4290 code. And it's very consistent with other projects and the application of not only Lake County's rules, but California's fire protection regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other folks from the chambers who would like to speak? Let's go to Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom who has his or her hand up? Okay, please state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Donna Makowitz. I'd like to ask where the biological assessment was done for the 7314 Adobe Creek parcel. I couldn't find that, and I really appreciate Commissioner Brown's comment. Even though Adobe Creek is less than 1,000 feet away, this is the creek that has had the most hitch sightings this year in our water resources program. There were over 500 of them just the week before last, and the amount of stranded hitch that the tribes go after is never noted in reports. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else online? All right, then I'll close public comment and bring it back to the chambers. Commission, any more questions?
Yeah, one question to staff or the applicants. Do you guys have any photos of what that property line on Adobe Creek looks like, looking towards the vegetated screening that's there?
That's not right. I'm like an aerial image? Or?
No, like maybe like kind of like how that one looks with the vineyard. Like if we could look towards where those.
From cultivation to residence?
Yeah.
With the screening between?
Yeah, do we have any of those photos?
That last one that kind of shoots down with the sunset will be like the
That
closest
one? Is it okay if I?
Oh, yeah.
Minimize it? This one?
We can't see anything with us there.
So that is, I think, what you're asking to see.
Okay, yeah, I did see that one. I was just, if, I guess a follow-up question. Yeah, follow-up question to that. What does the fencing look like on that side of the property? Is it the same?
Same perimeter fencing. All
Same perimeter fencing? So it's like kind of see-through, like, or like horse fencing or?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the screening makes it to where you cannot see.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to get a good idea of, because it does look like very thick vegetation. And also, I guess when the vineyard is being worked on, is there like, a lot of dust going up when you guys have tractors like cleaning the area? And are there any complaints? I guess this would be a property owner question. If there's any complaints about dust and the wind picking up and throwing it towards the residents' homes?
So there has never been a complaint about anything as far as noise complaints, dust complaints, smells, anything. We don't use sulfur and oils to fight off the PM and stuff like that, so they will never experience that from our farm. So no, we have not gotten any complaints. No, sir.
Okay, and when operation or if operation occurs, the smell usually appears when plants are closer to maturity or at maturity, or maybe when they're being trimmed or harvested. What time periods are we looking for that?
We are honestly only looking at 2 months out of the year.
Okay.
2 to 3.
And what months are those?
That would be the end of August, September, and October.
I'm just trying to get an idea of when you might potentially experience complaints or any kind of nuisance complaints from that. It would be expected to be around those months.
Exactly, because in the vegetative stage, they're not emitting any smells at that point.
Okay. All right, those are my questions for now. If there's any other questions.
I just wanted to express that I really appreciate your concern and trying to deal with issues. I'd like to talk to you later about what you do for powdery mildew without sulfur. But back to the topic, I'm very, very concerned about your neighbors' noses. I think you're swinging a fist that's going to be hitting some noses. So until I see or hear something a little bit more scientific about how to control the odor, I just can't see supporting this. I'm sorry.
We've come down to, whatever accommodations we need to, whether it be buying them a filtration system for air in their house or whatever it may be. It's only those few months that we're going to be doing it, that they'll need it. Honestly, it's the hottest time of the year as well. How many of you have your windows open at 8 o'clock at night? Sometimes I don't open mine until 9:30 because it's so hot, 10 o'clock, right? So, at that point, a lot of people are already asleep and they have their air conditioner set. So we're willing to accommodate however we need to, right? So I'm not saying it has to be one way or another, but we are so open to hear comment from both sides. We haven't heard anything yet, so we have nothing to go off of. So thank you.
And then I'd just like to point out again, it's, we don't have prevailing wind up there at the time of year we're talking about. So if there is some sort of, additional monitoring, and then cannabis, it's temporary, it's planted and then replanted. Doesn't stay in the ground like the vines do. So maybe, a year of cultivation, see how the odor goes. Is there a solution, and have a monitoring solution program that allows the applicant to work with a neighbor while they work through this process and have, I don't know if there's something that can be written if it isn't successful. I don't know what that would look like, but I think there's an opportunity here to allow for some kind of mitigation and monitoring program as the project progresses, just to see how it goes.
Great idea.
A question, in this procedural, is there a bond required?
Surety bonds are not required at this time.
Okay, so
they are
that's
part
in
of
the-
Article 27's updates. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, incidentally, if I might mention to the commission, just reminding the commission that this project is in conformance with setbacks from off-site residences. So if the commission intends to deny it due to odor impacts, it would be helpful if we could understand why this one is different than any other one. Additionally, the discussion that took place this last Tuesday on Article 27 amendments at the board's meeting did point out that there was consensus at the board level to maintain the 200-foot setback in ag from off-site residences. And the discussion centered around the fact that ag is sometimes smelly, but should be done in ag areas. So the consensus of the board at this time is to maintain a 200-foot setback from off-site residences in agriculture, agriculture preserve zones and timber preserve zones, 300-foot setback in RL, rural land zoning districts, and a 500-foot setback in rural residential, as well as capping rural residential maximum canopy to 1 acre. So the new, or as far as we can tell, the setbacks going forward in this new Article 27 amendment are going to maintain a 200-foot setback from off-site residences within the agricultural zoning districts.
Some of the difference is that the residents live there 24/7. The owner and the operator do not.
Which could be assumed for any other parcel in the agricultural zoning district with off-site residences.
I just want to add that I have great appreciation for what you and your staff do. Sometimes the letter of the law isn't, and that's why we're here. We're here to take a look at it and hopefully use some brains and assess it. And I'm really having trouble with it.
I have a few questions, if I may. In regard to using a power source, if we can touch on that a little bit. I think there was some mention of solar, but you also using existing PG&E and generators was also included, and so I kind of wanted to get an idea around what's actually happening in regard to power.
That's, sorry, I thought you had more. So backup generators are always thrown in the application in case they're needed. You're usually, an operation like this, you're usually talking about one of those small generators you can get at Costco or somewhere that we all use for our homes. It's just in there to disclose full project description. So, and it's likely there's existing PG&E service, but not to the well number 4. It's like I said, it's capped. It's likely that's going to be a solar service. It's quicker to get through and get hooked up, less infrastructure. Has to go through building permit to get the solar panels on the pole, but likely that. And then I wanted to point out one more thing that Al mentioned, that he lives right next door. So he does live there. Yeah.
Okay. And then additional questions that I have as staff. On the projects that are in close proximity, there was 0 pending and 2 approved projects within 1 mile, and then 3 pending and 10 approved within 3 miles. What, and you don't have to give me specifics or whatever, but do we happen to know what the general size of those operations are?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I would also like to have the Planning Commission take note that while we currently have 67 pending projects within the County of Lake, not all of these are viable projects and moving forward. We have approximately 30 that we're in contact with. And we're speaking with the board for Article 27 amendments that would include the ability to have abandoned applications drop off of our roster. But at this time, we still have to include those projects as pending projects.
Okay.
So this is a conservative estimate of how many pending projects there actually are versus what is a viable project and moving forward.
So the 2 approved projects that are within 1 mile, you don't have a concept of the size of those projects?
I would have to review the area. I don't have that committed to memory, the total canopy size of each project.
Okay, that would be helpful. So, and then again, back to, as I originally started with roads, and it was mentioned that the trucks for the vineyard operation currently use Adobe Creek. And I'm not sure of the road standards in the area, but I know that the Public Works included in the agency comments a comment about concern about the use of Boggs Lane. Yet the application indicates that that's going to be the main source of use for this project. So I guess my question is, for the cannabis project, would the trucks, would larger equipment like that, I guess I'm concerned about the standard of Boggs Lane, given the comment from Public Works, and if trucks were already using Adobe Creek for the vineyard, are they still using that for this project, or what's going on?
Okay, so the property is fairly large, right?
Yes.
The original 2 blocks that were planted in '99, we'll access that area when we're harvesting that. But usually when we're harvesting the other side, the trucks do use Boggs Lane as well. But just for maybe 1 truckload or so, not the majority of the truckloads, just because the logistics getting through the vineyard to the side where Adobe Creek is just not practical for farming. Time is money. But there is already an existing company that has several deliveries from semi-trucks every day at the end of that road. So this is not going to add anything as far as impact and stuff. If there's going to be a larger vehicle, say, deliver a tractor that we're renting or something like that, they can access each side. It's really no problem. The quality of Adobe Creek's road is about the same as the quality of Boggs Lane. So, I don't know if you guys have been down Adobe Creek lately, but it's impressive. So.
Other questions?
One more question. So the cultivation site is also going to be fenced, and is there going to be any kind of screening around that, or just security fencing with chain link? Or
It will be to standards, right? 7 foot fencing around the exterior of the cultivation site. One side I will probably screen just to be safe, because the screening does kind of taper out towards one of the residents. But we also have ideas to go with it, right? We still have vines. So the vines on the exterior of our cannabis area, the cultivation area, we plan just to let them grow a little higher. So it's actually just going to be a nice screening of vines as well. So I anticipate you not even by the end of summer, once the vines have grown, to really not even be able to see the fence. We want to make it just discreet as possible. I'm not one to go out and boast about what we're doing. So yeah, no, we will make it discreet as possible.
Okay. Yeah, it was just the question for whatever mitigation we can do to further thicken that vegetation screening, and to just add to what's already there, in hopes to avoid any or minimize at least any of those odor complaints or concerns that the public has. Thank you.
And in regard to the odor, again, I guess going back to, and perhaps this is what, because I see you're ready to push a button, Mary. But let me ask that question in a different way. When I was talking about the cannabis projects that are in close proximity to the site, to the knowledge of the Community Development Department, have there been or have you dealt with odor complaints from projects located in the area?
To answer that question, yes, we have, and we have an ongoing investigation currently for odor complaints within the area. I would also additionally like to make note with the commissioners that I recognize you'd like to see the canopy size listed within approved projects within a 1 to 3 mile radius. Is that a consensus with the commission? Okay. And then additionally, I would also like to make a recommendation to amend the conditions of approval. And this would be adding condition J4 within the hydrology and water quality section, in response to Fire Chief's comments that the water tank dedicated to fire suppression shall be equipped with a 2.5-inch connector for fire district use.
Thank you. Those are nice additions. All right, so if there are no more questions, we come to the point of, do we have a motion?
If there's no more questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the potential impacts associated with project applied for by Alfred Fontana IV can be mitigated to less than significant through the implementation of the mitigated negative declaration for the property located at 7255 Boggs Lane and 7314 Adobe Creek Road, Kelseyville, APN 007-021-21 and 007-021-16 will not have a significant effect on the environment, and the Planning Commission's adopt initial study PL 25-354 with the findings listed in the staff report dated April 9th, 2026, and as amended today.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. So we'll take a vote. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
No. So motion passed 3-2.
No. 4 ayes, 4 yeses.
Oh, there, no.
What?
There
Who?
were 3 ayes and 2 noes.
Oh, you said no?
I said no.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was counting.
Thank you.
I move that the planning commission find that the major use permit PL 25-354 applied for by Alfred Fontana the fourth for the property located at 7255 Boggs Lane and 7314 Adobe Creek Road, Kelseyville, APNs 007-021-21 and 007-021-16 does meet the requirements of section 51.4 and article 27 of the Lake County zoning ordinance, and that the major use permit be granted based on the findings and subject to the conditions included in the staff report dated April 9th, 2026, and as amended today.
Need a second?
Aye. Aye.
No, no.
Sorry.
Second.
I'll
Second.
buddy.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 3-2. And so I'll remind everyone that the applicant or any interested party is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there's any disagreement with the planning commission, an appeal to the board of supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th day following the planning commission's decision on this matter. So concludes this particular item. Should we take a break? Let's take a break till 11:45, and we'll be back for the second item on our agenda. Thank you. All right, so we are back, and we have a project here that we're going to consider. Consideration of proposed major use permit, PL 25492, UP 23-10, Clear Path Canyon, LLC, Brian Pensack and Garrett Burdick. Did I get that right? Hopefully. And mitigated negative declaration, PL 25492, IS 23-21, for the approval of no more than 653,400 square feet, 15 acres of outdoor commercial cannabis, cultivation and Type 13 distribution self-transport license located at 2050 and 2122 Olguin Canyon Road, Clear Lake, APN 010-05301 and 010-05302. So, staff report.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Trish Turner. I'm an Associate Planner with the Community Development Department of Lake County. This is the Clear Path Canyon project. The project consultant and applicant are present in chambers. The project consultant has prepared a brief presentation following staff presentation. Staff has also amended the conditions of approval since the posting of this agenda item, and newly proposed conditions related to water monitoring has been provided to the commissioners. The project proposes a major use permit for up to 653,400 square feet or 15 acres of outdoor commercial cannabis cultivation within 5 garden areas and a Type 13 distribution self-transport license. The parcel size combined is approximately 302.45 acres. The vicinity map. I would like you to note that that yellow on the screen over there is the boundary of 1,000 square feet within the city of Clear Lake. So the site is located in unincorporated area of Clear Lake. The project is located within 1,000 feet of the city of Clear Lake. The city of Clear Lake has provided a letter of support for this project, and it is included in the agency of comments attachment 9. Within 1 mile, there are 2 pending and 4 approved projects. Within 3 miles, there is 1 approved, and as a point of clarification regarding pending projects within a 3-mile radius, while the staff report lists 0 pending projects, there are actually 2 pending projects within 3 miles. However, one of these is effectively inactive as the department has had no contact with that applicant for over 2 years. The base zoning district for this project is rural lands, and the general plan designation is also rural lands. It is located within the Shoreline Community Planning Area and within District 2. The site has been developed to include agricultural operations such as hops farming and orchards. The project site is part of a former hops farm operated as Hopsmeister Farms, cultivating approximately 13.6 acres of hops beginning in about 2009. The hops were removed for the commercial cannabis cultivation under early activation from a previous use permit. All setbacks from waterways have been identified, and the project includes avoidance by design. Existing uses located on the property is there are a security gate and fencing, a 1,200 square foot single family residence, a septic system, 2,800 square foot barn, accessory structures, and multiple wells. The project scope is up to 653,400 square feet, 15 acres of commercial cannabis within 5 fenced outdoor cultivation area, a 2,800 square foot drying, curing, and immature plant propagation building that is existing, approximately 46 5,000 gallon water storage tanks for the cultivation, a total of 15,000 gallon storage water dedicated to fire suppression, 8 320 square foot Connex containers, 5 on-site wells that are existing, trash enclosures located within each cultivation area, compost and soil piles locations within each cultivation area, up to 5 ADA compliant bathroom, portable restrooms with hand washing stations, improve culvert upgrades or replacement when widening the roadway with the Lake Streambed Alteration Agreement with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, improve interior roadway leading up to the drying and curing building to comply with 4290 regulations, up to 8 full-time employees and up to 20 seasonal employees, 29 parking spaces, including 2 ADA compliant spaces. The project was analyzed under the Lake County General Plan, the Shoreline Communities Area Plan, the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and state regulations, with the findings found in the staff report. All impacts to the environment could be mitigated to less than significant with mitigation measures incorporated into the project's condition of approval, Attachment 3, and outlined in the draft mitigated negative declaration, Attachment 5. Public comment period occurred for the draft initial study mitigated negative declaration from October 23rd, 2024 through November 22nd, 2024. AB 52 notice was sent to local tribes on January 18th, 2024. Koi Nation responded and formally requested consultation on April 15th, 2024, which was concluded on June 25th, 2024. Tribal comment is not included as an attachment in the staff report due to the confidential correspondence that occurred between staff and tribe. Please see conditions TCR-1 through TCR-5 as agreed upon between the applicant. Points of interest, water usage. The applicant has submitted a hydrology report and a drought management plan, attachment 6. The project parcel has 5 wells on site. According to the report, water usage will be approximately 29.5 acre-feet a year. The conditions of approval have been amended to include the following under hydrology and water quality, number 3, just section J of the conditions of approval. The applicant shall establish a groundwater monitoring and reporting program to provide a framework for early detection and response if there is groundwater depletion or inadequate recharge. At a minimum, the groundwater level in the project's well shall be A, measured and recorded once in the spring, which is March, April, before cultivation activities begin, and once in the fall, in October, after cultivation is complete. Records shall be kept by the operator and elevations reported to the county as part of the project's annual reporting requirements. Reporting shall include a hydrograph plot of all seasonal water level measurements to date, beginning with the initial measurement. B, measured and recorded during the cultivation season, initially at least twice per week. Records shall be kept by the operator and elevation reported to the county as part of the project's annual reporting requirements. Reporting shall include a hydrograph plot of the groundwater level measurements during the cultivation season and compared to prior seasons. Recommendations. Staff recommends that you adopt mitigated negative declaration initial study IS 23-21 for use permit PL-25-492, use permit 23-10 with findings listed in the staff report, and approve use permit PL-25-492 UP 23-10 with the proposed conditions of approval and with the findings found listed in the staff report. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Questions from the commission of the presentation?
I just have one question real quick. Regarding the tribal consultation, did Koi Nation provide a letter saying that they also concluded consultation with the county?
Yes, the applicant and Koi Nation has entered into a tribal mitigation or tribal monitoring agreement.
Okay, thank you.
So is that the part that's confidential?
Yes.
Thank you. Other questions?
Go ahead.
Just a quick question about the site plan. If it was resubmitted, with the comments coming from the county surveyor stating that there had to be property line adjustments, and those have been resubmitted. Okay, because Staff report shows a plan, but it says from 2023, which was when those comments came in.
Often in the, I'd have to look at it. I don't know if you can see it. Oh. Sorry, this is Angie Dodd, North Point Consulting, agent for the applicant. Apologize for that. Usually we may not change the date on the corner, but Northeast does an amendment in the upper right on the plans, but those, the surveyor's comments were addressed and submitted to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
In the agency comments, the fire department has concerns about roads, turnarounds, and water storage. Have these issues been resolved?
They have been. Autumn Lancaster did provide comments regarding the water storage for the site, and it has been done under, what is that? The
NFIP.
Yes.
Okay, and the city letter is conditional and 2.5 years old, as I think someone noted. Have the contingencies been met? I mean, I could look it up. These are in my notes from reading yesterday.
I will defer to the applicant and their consultant.
Yeah, there is a conditional letter, so the city supports the project within the setback. It's in kind of in their cannabis zone, near their cannabis zone as well. There are conditions in that letter which will be satisfied if the project is approved.
Okay, that's what I want to hear. Environmental health has some well permit inconsistencies. Have these been addressed?
I have all the well permits for them. I'm not sure what the well permit inconsistencies are, but we have consistent well completion reports for the 5 wells on site.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. The county surveyor says the general note 2 states boundary lines were obtained from Lake County GIS. This is not acceptable use of data for boundary lines, especially when determining setbacks.
That's what I was just addressing with the other commissioner, that we had actual record of survey that we incorporated into the site plans. So usually we use the GIS lines if we don't have other detail, but if you're close to a property boundary, I've talked to the surveyor about this. If you're within like 1,000 feet, you know you're within your setback of a property line. But if you're getting closer to an adjacent property line, the surveyor wants actual surveyed property lines,
Right.
and we've
Okay,
incorporated that.
Okay, I get it. I'm very concerned about the biological concerns from, I believe it was Red Bod Audubon. There's tree frog and a bird. I can look it up if you want. Yeah, this is in public input. Donna Mankiewicz from the Red Bud Audubon Society brought up a number of issues.
I have, if you would like me to, I can wait, Commissioner Field, but I have responses from the biologists that did the report for the project.
That'd be great.
And I could read those. This is out of my area of expertise, so if I mispronounce things, I apologize. So there was a comment, and I have some of it in my presentation. We can wait till the end of my presentation, and I can read through this.
Okay, let's do
then.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, I have questions, but if you're going to make a presentation, some of my questions may be answered.
So the majority of my presentation, just as you're thinking about your questions, refers to the history of the property, which you've seen in the public comments regarding the former project. And then mostly it's about, like the other one, it's about water, but at a much bigger analysis.
So that was my question. What is the history of this particular project? Has it been before the Planning Commission before?
Yeah, there's some questions.
This project has not. A previous submitted project has, and whenever a project is submitted, we have to look at it as it is submitted as a new project. Anything prior to that is not analyzed or looked at.
Okay, so what's going on here, in case, as I see it, is that the public sees a project on a property and says, oh, we've been through this before. This is actually somebody else doing a new project that happens to be in the same place. Am I getting that right?
Is that correct?
Almost same people, different project.
I kind of cover it in my presentation.
You do? Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
It is confusing, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead with the presentation.
One thing, just because again, I'm not always sure when to state this, but I did do a site visit on the property. I met with John on the property, And we just kind of toured around the various different sites. We did that on Tuesday, April 7th, and I also want to state that I'm very thankful that you did reach out and extend an invitation to do a site visit. Thank you.
And I believe I visited the site 20 years ago when it was a hops farm. That's relevant, though.
All right. Go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity to give the presentation. So this first slide illustrates the proposed cultivation areas throughout the project. Except for this area, I'll talk about it more later, the majority of the sites are on existing areas that were prior cultivated for hops or an existing cleared area. Trish went over, I just put this here just in case anything was missed. I think she got the project details pretty solid. There's no tree removal proposed as part of this project. We talked about firewater storage and groundwater wells. Just one thing to point out, the proposed project area is only 6.5% of the overall project area. Additional project details, setbacks on this project, even if they're class 3, because we're working with the current ordinance, is 100 to 150 feet setback. It's 150 from Burns Valley Creek along Ogling Canyon Road. The nearest off-site residence is 455 feet to the southwest. That residence is actually owned by the applicant. And then the next nearest is 548 feet, and I think that one's to the north. We talked about the setback from the city of Clear Lake's sphere of influence, and then we mentioned that the applicant has signed and submitted an agreement to the Khoi Nation for this. So if this project gets approved, that agreement will be executed. So property history is where we were getting. So an application in 2021 was approved by the Planning Commission for this project. It was appealed to the Board of Supervisors in 2022 and denied because additional analysis information was needed by the Board of Supervisors to conduct or to verify that the conclusions of no significant impact. These items have now been addressed. I'm going to add some more detail after I get through these bullet points. It's important to point out that no facts, I was part of that appeal and defended the project. There were no facts, data, studies that were brought forth to support or at the appeal hearing that demonstrated the project would have an impact. Only opinion that you should consider this additional information was brought up. So what the applicant decided to do, when you have a project that has been appealed, you can resubmit a project, but you have to wait 6 months. And rather than elevating to attorneys or lawsuits, the project applicant decided to wait out the 6 months because we knew we could address these in analyses and represent with the additional information. And that's what the applicant has done this time, is resubmitted the application. It's a new application. The applicant's attorney, you should have in your packet a letter from the land use attorney explaining the issues with CEQA and why an EIR is not necessary at this time. The current project hydrology report does address all the items that came up during the appeal hearing and any public comments or concerns that came up at the time and since. The concerns were mainly associated with cumulative impacts to nearby wells. That was the big issue. So history about the property is important. You'll see in public comment from the realtor that sold this project that, this is a project, it has very prolific, this area has very prolific wells. It has a history of cultivating hops, which is a high water demand product. So it was sold as a great site to cultivate cannabis under the new ordinance. So it was Hopmeister Farms, is what I researched online. The hops started about 2009. I estimate almost just under 14 acres. It appeared of hops canopy. The proposed cultivation, this is an older aerial image that shows the hops a little bit better. Mostly aligns with the previous hops cultivation, but with more restrictions. You have your stream side setbacks that you have to honor for cultivation. And then an estimate, more details are in the hydrology report. I didn't want to do a whole lecture and have this be really long, but estimated historic demand of the hops is about 80,000 gallons per day, which equates over, I think I used a 150-day season, which is 364 acre feet per year or 10.2 million gallons per year. That was the historical use on this property. It was operated for many years, typo, until the hops, but my understanding, the hops were just no longer financially feasible to grow. So the hydrology report, some of this we've already talked about. It's how I estimate demand. So similar to the last project, I use the conservative high estimates. For this analysis, I went even more. I went higher because I wanted to be extremely conservative, knowing that that's really not going to happen on this site. So I also used a 180-day cultivation season, which in Lake County, depending on how folks cultivate, I'm seeing from like 120 to, if you can get 2 runs in, maybe to 130, 140. And we've been working with John Lake, who's sitting by me. He's a local cultivator who's been our cultivation consultant to educate us and direct how this project would move forward. So again, I'm using the upper end of the published ranges for demand per canopy per year, and that upper end is 3,560 gallons per day per acre per canopy, which is within the ranges I'm seeing locally being used by local cultivators. It's at the upper end. And as we discussed before, demand is influenced by cultivation style, growth, stage, size, medium, weather, watering, all of that. Climate could be added in there. Again, I said I used an 180-day season. This is all outdoor cultivation. Demand, daily demand then for the 15 acres with those assumptions ranges between 43,000 and 73,000 gallons per day, depending on where you are in the season and whether you're flowering or vegetative state. And so the total annual demand for the hops, oh, sorry, I have a typo there. It should be, that's probably why you're squinting your eyes. That should be 10.2 million gallons per year was the historical use by the hops. And then the cannabis cultivation is just under just under 10 million gallons per year. Those numbers are in 1,000 gallons. So still I would call that same order of magnitude when we're estimating. The project has recommended storage at each cultivation area. I usually like to recommend at least 3 to 5 days of storage. 3 is like 3 days during peak demand is my minimum to recommend to clients. So each site has 3 to 5 days of storage adjacent to the cultivation area. And then talking about the water-bearing formation, this is where things get a little confused on kind of where the impacts are or would be potential associated with this project. So there are 2 water-bearing formations adjacent to each other. I know this is noisy. They're in the report, but this blue area is the Burns Valley surface water watershed. Purple, if you're not colorblind, this is the Burns Valley groundwater basin. And then this gray hashed area, which is the large Clear Lake Cache Formation groundwater basin. The wells are drilled very deep. They're at depths to 200 to over 400. The geologic logs on the wells indicate they are in the Cache Formation. Wells located, they're mapped in the Cache Formation, and then they are on the eastern edge of the Burns Valley Basin, but they're still in that deeper Cache Formation. These groundwater basins are delineated more, like when you do your web soil survey maps, you got to think of them at the 1,000 feet. They didn't, no pun intended, drill down to the actual boundary of the maps, but the wells are in more of the cache formation based on their logs and depth. However, the concern is the Burns Valley groundwater basin, so I focus on the Burns Valley groundwater basin.
What's the elevation difference between those two aquifers? Do you know?
Oh gosh, you're challenging me.
Just roughly.
Yeah, I'd be guessing. For Burns, at a lower level is the elevation of Clear Lake. No, sorry. The wells in the cache formation, they're the ones that supply the vineyards, the other cultivation areas. They're all the ones I'm looking at are all really high producing well yields. Of the 5 wells on site, in the hydrology report, there were well production tests that validate the high yield of the wells, as well as the historical use on site to cultivate the hops demonstrated that there is water availability. And then if you just base it on, this is just one metric, if you base it on the well yield and the well completion report, the demand is about 2.5% of that overall well yield. So recharge, again, estimating what recharge would look like on this project. I estimated recharge 2 different ways. There's a portion of the Burns Valley Creek watershed that drains to the project site. So that's the larger recharge area. That's really the surface water that would drain to the site. And then I also use just the parcel area. So what the parcel itself contributes to its own recharge to see what those recharge estimates are. This is its percentage portion of water in the watershed. And so when you're looking at what I estimated as the total recharge area, which is a little over 300 acres, that's the orange line. And then the blue lines are the project area recharge. And then the black line is the demand associated with the project. And you see the long-term average over the years of record, this is based on actual rainfall, averaging over 2 years, that there is sufficient recharge over the project parcel to meet the project's demand. The other storage, and now we have the large cache formation, which is a huge groundwater basin. Just looking at the project parcels contributing storage area, it's a much bigger basin under there. The project parcel storage is about 34 acre feet. The demand is 29. So just storing, kind of contributing to the parcel, there's enough storage. And then the cache formation storage, they estimate, USGS estimates between, or DWR, I can't remember which one, 50,000 and 70,000 acre feet of storage. So it's a pretty big aquifer. And then here's a picture that just shows the Burns Valley groundwater basin, which is really what was of concern, even though the wells are up and down in the cache formation. And one thing that's really helpful is, and unfortunately, in the last couple of years, in someone's infinite wisdom, they decided to destroy this well. It was a great monitoring well. I loved it. But there was a monitoring well located in the Burns Valley groundwater basin. And this is where you get your spring, fall monitoring, so you can monitor how the aquifer is recharging, and in the fall, how it's declined. So you can see that spring-fall interaction over time. This well was there since the 50s. So you can see what the water levels are looking like over time and see how the vineyard, there's like 450 acres of vineyards. The hops project, how are they affecting the Burns Valley groundwater basin? Is it truly being impacted? And that's the question, is there a cumulative impact to the groundwater in Burns Valley? And of major concern, you're all aware that this is a large area of 1 acre, 1.5 acre residential homes, and they're all relying on groundwater wells for their water supply. So, and then I talk about that more later. I don't want to jump ahead. So this plot is of the groundwater monitoring in that well with the dots are the levels, the blue lines are the precipitation since 1980. When you're looking on Google Earth, I can start seeing vineyards show up maybe, I'm going to guess, I was looking at it this morning, in the 90s. But this is 1980 through 2020, and you're not really seeing a decreasing trend in groundwater elevation. So they're used to visualize drawdown. This is the recommendation that I pretty much give on all my water studies if there's significant water use. And for ag, I've mentioned this multiple times to this board and to the Board of Supervisors. Measuring the trend of your spring, fall water levels gives you an understanding of the kind of robustness of water supply you have for your agricultural project, which I think is extremely important for longevity. And then, and then I zoomed in because the issue here is this project. And so I have another project that I can compare that had same magnitude of water use over a period of time to see, was there a long-term impact to Burns Valley groundwater basin while this project was operational. The HOPS project, not the current project, which had similar magnitude of water. Based on Google imagery and what I could find, the operation was basically from 2009 to 2019. And when I'm plotting the spring, fall water levels, I'm not seeing a decline in water level over that period, indicating that the water use associated with the hops wasn't causing a significant decline in water levels in the Burns Valley Basin. And this also, just want to point out, the hops was on the order of, 14 acres. There's also 450 acres of vineyards drawing water, and all the orchards that are there drawing water. A lot of them are dry. I think they're dry water or dry farmed now, but I still like to be conservative and consider everything. So talking about groundwater in the Burns Valley, when I started jumping the gun and talking about the residential area. So although the water-bearing formation of the project is the deeper cache formation, the concerns of the project were to residential wells in the Burns Valley Basin, which are over a mile away to the southwest. My next one is a figure. Maybe I'll just scroll there really quick. So here's kind of the project cultivation areas, and I looked at all the well completion reports that were available in this area to see what these residential wells look like. So as I mentioned earlier, the northern residential district of Clear Lake relies mainly on groundwater for its source of water. Over the well logs in the area, the average well depth is about 75 feet. They're screened from 30 to 75 feet, and they're in layers of gravel and clay, kind of in the upper alluvial portion in that lower Burns Valley aquifer. There are lots of wells that are actually screened from from surface to like 25 or 50 feet, so they're drawing surface water directly. It's a shallow alluvium of unconfined layers of gravel and clay. The shallow unconfined aquifer is directly influenced by surface water, rainfall, and the Clear Lake levels. Recent water quality sampling that have been done in the basin are very indicative of this, because I'm seeing surface water measurements come back at similar measurements that I'm seeing in the local groundwater wells. So it's very clear that there's a lot of interaction between surface water and groundwater in this residential area of the Burns Valley Basin. These wells, you notice the dates here. These wells were really impacted during the 2020-2022 drought years that we were experiencing here in Clear Lake. Folks were complaining that they had wells going dry. So that was an issue at the time. Oops. Is that me? That one? Right. Water quality samples that we see in the project wells and the wells that are drawn from the deeper cache formation don't have like the E. coli and coliform we're seeing in those shallower wells. So they're much different, much cleaner water. And then just to give you an idea of what was going on in 2021, 22, the Clear Lake levels dropped drastically. So if this is 2021, 2022, and then 23, you see it pop right back up. We got a lot of rainfall in 23. So the lake, this is from 2000, so you can see how low the lake got on record from 2000. It could be 0 Rumsey and not mean sea level. I got it from the USGS gauge. So I don't want to say, I'd have to look at the USGS gauge to see how they measure that elevation.
Yeah, I believe those years we were below 0 Rumsey, so this is Clear Lake.
Oh, and there's 0, yeah.
Yep.
So then looking at the wells that are actually nearby the project to identify impacts to nearby wells, again, reviewing the well completion reports in the area. There are about 24 there are 24 wells within 1 mile. And notice the depth of these wells. The average depth is 252 feet, so you can see there's a big range. And then the average yield is about 85 gallons per minute, so in that deeper formation.
And do you think that at 250 feet, they're drawing from the cache?
Oh, yeah.
formation? Okay.
Yeah. The alluvial aquifer, when I was looking at all the well logs, I'm seeing is like probably between 0 to 100 feet deep. And then for this project, I did a radius of an influence estimate, which estimates the distances when you're drawing at a certain rate where drawdown is negligible, where you wouldn't see an impact on another well. And the project, I mapped the radius of influence with adjacent wells just to see, and this is where drawdown is negligible. We're at 6 inches where you can't even detect it. If you had a well driller out there measuring water elevations, the noise and water elevation measuring is about 6 inches. In addition, in May of 2025, I had additional monitoring done where I had a well driller pump from the eastern well up by the house and monitor the other well that the applicants own to see if there's a change in elevation. And this was a 4-hour test, and the well was the adjacent nearby well was monitored over that same period, and there was you should have a letter from me that was on a green sheet that summarizes the results of this. And there was no discernible effect on that nearby well when we pumped the well.
How near is it? I can't read the distance. What about how far apart are the wells?
Oh, what's that scale? Is 700 feet, so maybe 1,000. Yeah. I purposely wanted them to wait till when it was drier. The other thing that was needed that kind of set this apart that justified not moving forward with a fully IR and that an ISMND is still sufficient is to address all the concerns that came up, and that was the cumulative impacts. So I went above and beyond when looking at the cumulative demand in the area, because usually cumulative impacts are existing and foreseeable future. I did existing, foreseeable future, and if all the land use projects that could approve cannabis were actually approved. Which is not going to happen, but I wanted to be really conservative and just really push this point home. So current agricultural demand, combination of vineyards and orchards, this is based on, it's in the report, it's that 450 acres of vineyards, and then like 300 and some acres of orchards, and I did a really conservative estimate on the demand for orchards. But the existing agriculture activities, I'm at 555 acre feet per year. The residential demand, counting all the parcels and houses the best I could, using an average household demand of, I think it was 300 gallons per day by the EPA, multiplying that by 365 and the number of houses, I get about 40 acre feet per year. So obviously ag is much higher than res, yeah.
So where are you getting that number, 555? Are you guessing, or are you actually using?
It's explained in the report. Okay. Where it's the number, so I went and I calculated all the acreage of vineyards, and this would be the cultivation area of the vineyards to get that 450, and then in the groundwater sustainability plan for Lake County, they have the estimate for the demand for vineyards, and they have the estimate for the demand for orchards. So I did the same thing with orchards, is I went and estimated all the areas that look like orchards.
Okay, because I know a lot of walnut orchards are dry farmed, so.
Yep, that's why it's conservative.
Okay.
No, I know it's conservative on the high side. And after I came up with this estimate, I was told that a lot of them are dry farmed, but I left it because I wanted it to be high. There are within the, and then the other thing I looked at were the existing and pending cannabis projects. Again, this report is from 2023, and I included the city of Clear Lake and the county existing and pending. And from what I'm hearing, some of the pendings are probably not viable anymore, but I'm okay with that because I want to be conservative. So when you look at all those, take them all into account. The cities are more mixed light type cultivation, so they're longer, so they have longer periods to estimate. So I took all of that into account, and I got 89.5 acre feet per year, and that includes this project. And then the above and beyond is what could potentially be approved. So I looked at the land use in the city, and I looked at the land use in the county, intersected it with the Burns Valley Basin, which is the one we're of concern, looked at the land use, took out floodplain, took out streamside areas to get what could potentially be a cultivation area, and got the number of acres of outdoor cultivation that could happen in the county outside of the existing and pending, and the amount of mixed light cultivation that could happen in the city that isn't already pending or approved. So that's how I did that analysis, and I got an additional 85.6 acre feet per year could potentially be approved in that area, and that would be what the demand is. So then the total demand for existing ag, existing residential, pending, and potential, cultivation, and then my guess of what's remaining, the total demand would be 770 acre feet per year in the Burns Valley Basin. And again, a lot of that cannabis demand, if you look at the map, would be kind of in the outer edges and would likely go down deeper into the cache formation. But the focus is on Burns Valley, so worst case scenario. So when I look at Burns Valley, I have it outlined here, total demand or total potential future use is 770 acre feet per year. According to DWR, Department of Water Resources, the Burns Valley usable storage is 1,400 acre feet. So we're just half of the usable storage of the basin. And then that doesn't account for the cache storage, which remember was 50 to 70,000 acre feet per year. I'm being conservative and assuming it's all coming from Burns Valley when it's not, but again, I'm trying to push the point home.
So we have a hard stop here at 12:30. We have to break for the...
I will hurry.
Thank you.
I also calculated the long-term average recharge of Burns Valley, assuming over 7 years, assuming 3 droughts, 4 average. And we see that the long-term recharge is about 1,200, which exceeds that. So sufficient storage. Surface water impacts. Again, the wells are really deep. They're well below the elevations that you see in Burns Valley Creek. They're not hydrologically connected to the creek, and they're not drawing water from the creek. There are drought management measures in the hydrology report that conditions of approval state that the project has to follow. In addition, a letter was submitted that the property applicant would reduce a specific amount if records indicate that there's a moderate or extreme drought of 3 acres during moderate and then 5 acres during extreme. I'm not gonna, since we're done, basically what I've shown here is there's enough demand, there's enough storage, there's enough recharge. The nearby wells and surface water would not be affected by the project groundwater use. The project is not connected to the wells in the lower Burns Valley groundwater basin, so it's not affecting those shallow groundwater wells. This is just the conclusions from the report. And then I have the biology figure, and I can answer those questions when I can. And then I'll answer those because I know you want to go, in case we want to talk about cultivation area.
So I think that what we can do is put a stop on here, and then we'll pick up at 1:30.
Oh, I thought it was, okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have to stop for the staff. Yeah, we're not done. I didn't mean that.
Great. So I'm going to go back to...
So if we could just put a pin in that, and then we can come back. You can finish up, and then we can open for questions and comments. So thank you. We'll be back at 1:30.